Microphone check 1 2 1 2. What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? I would like to welcome you all to another edition of Wayne's Perspective, where we operate in discipline, decency, integrity, and respect. All right, guys. So I'm not sure if you can tell in my voice or not, but I'm hyped for today's video because this is a video that I've been looking forward to doing pretty much ever since I started my channel. And as you can see by the picture on the screen, you know who that guy is. That's Mr. Nasir Jones, my number one favorite MC of all time. Definitely the greatest MC of all time. So this project, it's a long time coming, and I've been like I said, I've been waiting for this one. And for this particular project, what I'm going to do here is I'm basically going to talk about his discography, basically a comprehensive look at his work, basically everything from Illmatic all the way up to Life is Good. Now, let me explain this one a little bit. Now, for those of you who are fairly new to my channel, I told this during my introduction, and if you haven't checked that out already, go ahead and do so. Um, Way back when I started, well, not way back when, but in May of 2012, I started a hip hop blog, and this was on Blogger. And basically, what I did was I talked about a lot of hip hop related things, current events, but I mostly dedicated my time to doing album reviews, revisits, projects on particular artists. And in this case, I did one on Nas. And at the time I did the project, the recent album at that time he had released was Life is Good, and that was also in 2012, but I would do the project a little bit later. So that's what I did on my blog at that particular time. And the reason I didn't continue it was, things that changed. I went ahead and pursued my bachelor's degree. I talked about that. So, my interest kind of changed a little bit because I wanted to focus on getting my degree. So I did less and less on the blog. So what ended up happening, a few years later, I went ahead and started the blog back again on medium.com, which what I did was the majority of my work from the old blog, I still had the quote unquote master copies of it. So what I went ahead and did was I edited everything, took out some words, added in some new stuff, and basically tried to make the post as authentic as possible, in terms of getting that feel for it when I created back in, 2013, all the way up to 2018. So that's what I did. And if you haven't checked out that page already, it's www.medium.com at WDM625. Again, that's www.medium.com at WDM625. Now, the most recent thing I put up there is an Untouchable Scarface project, which at some point I'm going to get to on this YouTube channel. And interestingly enough, I haven't did the full edits for this Nas project that I'm going to put up there. So eventually I'm going to do that. But I wanted to make these updates and edits and things just for this YouTube video here. And I went back and forth as to whether I was going to do an actual live stream of this, but I decided, I'm just going to go ahead and just do a normal video and record and upload it later, because even though my channel is fairly new, let's keep it real. I didn't want to do a live stream with nobody watching, or, at best, maybe 5 people, so, and now I have my opportunity to do a live stream at another date and time, but it's all good here. So that's what I'm going to do. So in the case of this project, like I said, I'm going to take an extensive look at his discography, everything from Illmatic all the way up to Life is Good, and everything post Life is Good. I'm going to get my thoughts on it as well. So you're basically going to get my perspective from a long time fan. And like I said, I've been supporting this guy for years, ever since I first heard him. I've been a big fan, and I still continue to be a big fan to this day, So we're going to get all of that and more in here. So without further delay, we're going to get into this project. And also my you see I'm sharing my screen here. So what I'm going to do is basically my thoughts. I'm going to read most of this verbatim, but I'm also going to you know, give things off the top of my head and things like that. So it's going to be the best of both worlds, legit, actual thoughts in the moment, right there, spontaneous, as well reading things verbatim, so you'll get a full glimpse of everything here. So if you have some snacks value, I mean, I have my Gold Peak iced tea here. So if you have some snacks, gummy bears, Sprite, what have you, I know that stuff I like, but bear with me. Go ahead and get comfortable because we're gonna take a ride through the journey of Nas, basically, like I said, the greatest MC of all time, and looking at what has basically become a stellar body of work. So we're going to take a look at the ups, we're going to take a look at the downs, and just everything in between. So let's go ahead and get this started. So basically, like most people listening to this, I first heard Nas on Live at the Barbecue, the main source classic from the Breaking Adams album. And of course, one caveat, one disclaimer. I am going to be doing some lyrics. I am going to be reading some lyrics and I'm going to be saying some verses. So parental discretion is advised here. Okay. I just wanted to throw that out there. Parental discretion is advised. And for my quotes of these lyrics, I just want to say fair use to the creator himself. Okay. Now we got that out of the way. So getting back to what I said, I first heard Nas on Main Sources Live at the Barbecue, a classic song from their 1991 album Breaking Adams. And of course, who could forget the opening lines here? Let me get started. Streets disciple, my rap's a trifle. I shoot slugs from my brain just like a rifle. Stampede the stage, I leave the microphone split. Put Mr. Tuffy while I'm on some pretty tone shit. Verbal assassin, my architect pleases. When I was 12, I went to hell for snuffing Jesus. Nasty Nas is the rebel to America. There we go. So that right there, that set it off. And when I heard that, I became a big fan ever since. So, I mean, just look at that. I mean, that verse is legendary right there. And as he said later, he started his career by saying streets disciple. So that verse basically started the legend that we know now as Nasir Jones, Nas Escobar, Nasty Nas, Nostradamus, whatever you want to call him. That's who we have now. So we skip ahead and now we get into the legendary debut. Okay. And as we all know, yesterday, April 19th, 2024, this classic debut turned 30. I'm pretty sure I'm probably the only person that I know that recognized it, but let's be clear. This particular debut is celebrated 30. It's my number one pick for greatest album of all time. Definitely the best album of 1994. Definitely one of the greatest albums ever made. What more can I say about this album? So we're going to start here. And like I said, released on April 19th, 1994. 1994 was a great year hip hop, y'all. So I just want to throw that in there. So before I get started now, I just want to let you all know that I am going to have a lot of stories here, mainly for his releases that came out in the 90s. I am going to have a lot of personal stories here. So, I'm going to be taking you on this journey. So, like I said, this is going to be a good one. And like I said, I'm hyped for this one. We're talking about Nas. So, how can I not be hyped? So, okay. So, now I am going to show my age, but it's okay. I'm 39. So when I first heard The World Is Yours, I was in the fourth grade. How old was I at the time? I think I was 9 going on 10. And of course, when I heard this song again, I fell in love with it, even though some will probably tell you that I had no business listening to such music. But hey, those that came up in our era back in the day, 80s babies coming up in the 90s, most of us, we knew what we were listening to. And again, this particular song, and I'm going to talk about it more when I get into the album itself, but this song, I mean, I fell in love with it, so much so that, you wouldn't, it wouldn't be out of the ordinary for me to just say, I sit the Don P watching Gandhi till I'm charged to writing in my book of rhymes all the words past the margin. It wouldn't be unusual for one of my classmates to just hear me randomly saying that during class or something like that to myself, not out loud, But like I said, it was a great single. And even to this day, if somebody asks me what my favorite Nas song is, more than likely I am going to pick that, even though it's a whole body of work that I can go to. But that's usually the first song that comes to mind. And of course, the remix is even dope, produced by Q-Tip. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Um, so yeah, so like I said, when I heard that, I was, I was hooked. If Live at the Barbecue didn't do it, The World Is Yours did it as well. So, so that's what we have there. Now, continuing on, with my little story here. So, um, most of you may be surprised to know that it took me a while to actually buy the album because at this point I was a little boy. So, even though I had my collection of tapes that my daddy gave me because he was slowly but surely starting to not listen to hip hop as much, and plus he would start buying CDs as well. So I didn't get this album until much later, and actually, well, I'll get to that later in terms of when I bought it and how many times I've owned it and stuff like that. So my first exposure to the album was Two Neighbors back in the day. One lady who I can't recall her name, but my mom knows her, and if I was to call my mom right now, she would probably give me her name, but I don't recall her name, but I know that she was a neighbor. And the other neighbor who let me use his tape was a guy named Ricky. And of course, I enjoyed the album so much I didn't even want to get the tapes back. I didn't want to give it back. And then after a while, my cousin Amp, if he's listening to this, shout out to you. I'm going to mention him at another part of this project too. But he had the tape. He had a dub copy, and I used this tape. And I can't recall what happened to it. I want to say I just kept it and went from there. I don't think he ever asked it back. Probably because he knew even then it was going to be like pulling teeth to get me to give it back to him. So it was okay. And again, I mean, I fell in love with this album. I mean, front to back, start to finish, you name it. I loved it, really loved it. Um, and then, how could I forget this story? I should have told this one before I talked about my cousin Amp. So it was in the summer of 1994. Now, I was 10 at this point. I was at a summer camp that year at Farmer Street Park, and all of my heads in Petersburg, you know what I'm talking about. So there was a counselor, well, not a counselor, but one of the teachers, for the lack of a better word, one of the guys that would look after the kids and stuff like that. His name was Terrence. Now I remember one day we was at the tape, we was at the table, underneath like a little, like a big extended tent, and he was sitting there with his Walkman and he was listening to Nas because I heard him singing "The World Is Yours." So after a while, now keep in mind, I'm a 10-year-old boy at this point, and he had to have been maybe 24, 25, or something like that, maybe even younger than that. I was at between 21 and 25. So he was at the table, singing "The World Is Yours." And then after a while, I would talk to him about hip hop. We would often talk about, Nas, of course. We would talk about J. Rue Damage. I remember one debate that me, him, and another guy had was which J. Rue Damage beat was better, Come Clean or The Original. Terrence said The Original, but the other guy said Come Clean. Now today, I guess I would go with Come Clean, but either way, both of them are dope and both of them are classics. But getting back to Nas, so at one point I asked Terrence, I was like, "Yo, if I give you a tape, will you dub the Nas joint for me?" He was like, "Yeah." So about the next day or two, like, check this out. I came back with a CC Peniston tape. Remember her? Finally, keep on walking. Remember her? So I had a tape now for all of my old school heads back in the day. Remember when if we didn't have a blank tape or anything like that, what we would have like a master copy of a tape, and in order to dub on the tape or record on the tape, we would put two pieces of either tissue or cotton at the top of it just to get it to record. I mean, the things we did back in the day, today's generation wouldn't know about that. But yeah, that's what we did back in the day. So in this case, I took that master copy of the CC Peniston tape to him. I never saw that tape again. I don't know what happened to it. I don't know if he essentially threw it away as if to say, this guy can't be serious. If you want me to dub something, you need to give me an actual blank tape. Don't come up in here with this master mess. I could do it, but don't waste my time. Now, he never said that, but looking back on it, roughly 30 years later, that's probably what the thought was. And me being 10 years old at the time, I wasn't on his case like, where the tape at, where the tape at, where the tape at. So I just chalked it up to that, he just probably chucked it away and went on about his business. And another ironic thing here is the guy bore a striking resemblance to Nas, if I remember it correctly. So it was interesting. So then it wasn't too long after that that I got the dub copy from my cousin Amp, and then you know that's what happened there. Um, so one last factor about this. So over the years, I actually bought this album three times. The first time I bought the CD was in August of '97. I bought it from Circuit City. Then the next time I bought it from I think I bought it from Circuit City again, and this was in 2003, I think, either 2002 or 2003. And the last time that I ordered it, I got it off Amazon. So I got two copies of it in addition to the 10-year anniversary of it, the 20-year anniversary of it. I got them all. And plus the 10-year anniversary. I know I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but the 10-year anniversary and the 20-year anniversary, both of those came with bonus material. So that's the reason why I got it. But let's keep it real. Even without the bonus material, I still would have bought the albums because this is Nas we talking about, and it's Illmatic. Now, much to my surprise, they didn't release anything for the 30 years, but it's all good. So, with all that being said, we can finally dive right into the album. And also, I have a copy of the Source Magazine's review of the album from one of their issues back in '94. I'm going to just mainly talk about two comments that were made. One I'm going to say for the end, but one I'm going to go into now. The author, he just went by the name of Shorty, and I wonder where this dude is. He said, quote unquote, after peeping his skill on Live at the Barbecue, Back to the Grill, and the official bomb halftime, street dwellers and industry folks alike were predicting Nas's first album to be monumental. And he was right about that. So, with all that being said, let's go ahead and jump right into the album. So, as you can see, in addition to Nas himself behind the boards, it's like a dream team of producers at this point in 1994. You got DJ Premier, one half of Gang Starr. You got LES. You got Pete Rock, one half of Pete Rock and CL Smooth. Large Professor, the lyrical man, and another part behind the boards with Main Source, and of course Q-Tip, 1/3 of A Tribe Called Quest. And the only featured guest on this album was AZ. Now Nas will later say his album had no famous guest appearances, and in this case, you can say that's true. But history has shown that AZ was the actual only featured guest on this album. So all right, let's continue on here. So we'll get into the highlights, and that's what I'm basically going to do here. So on each album, I'm going to talk about the highlights of the albums, and I'm also going to talk about low lights, which I can already tell you up top that there's not many low points on Nas album. So we're going to talk about the highlights and the low points when we get there. So, all right. So after the Genesis, which starts everything off, we go right into the first highlight, which is New York State of Mind. You know, rappers are monkey flipping with the funky rhythm I be kicking. Musician, inflicting composition, a pain I'm like Scarface sniffing cocaine, holding the M16. See with the pen I'm extreme. I mean, look at that. The guy was nice with the lyrics, man. So now I'm jetting through the building lobby, and it was full of children, probably couldn't see as high as I be. So what you saying? It's like the game made the same. I could go on. I got so many rhymes, I don't think I'm too sane. Life is parallel to hell, but I must maintain and live prosperous. Man, great stuff here. And my comments again, after the Genesis, we head right into the first appropriately titled song on the album, Born and Raised in Queens, New York. Nas instantly takes you on a lyrical journey through the mind, if you will. This is how it all goes down in New York, and Nas paint that picture oh so well. I think there might be a typo in there, but it's okay. Great song produced by DJ Premier. Beyond the walls of intelligence, life is defined. I think a crime when I'm in the New York state of mind. Classic, 5 out of 5, and also, um, I'm pretty sure you all know what my rating system is regarding songs and albums and things like that. And if you are not familiar with that, you can go back to my Coogee rap post because I put it in there. I don't want to interrupt this video to go into that, but as you see or as you listen and I go on, you'll see how my ratings are and how I pretty much define them by the songs themselves. So continuing on, did we get to the next highlight, life's a bitch and then you die. That's why we get high, because you never know when you're going to go. That line, it does describe this classic in a nutshell, as I say here. AZ, the album Soul guest star, he delivers his best verse ever, in my opinion. And he almost steals the show, which is quite hard to do on a song with Nas. And I mean, AZ. Visualizing the realism of life and actuality. Fuck who's the baddest. A person's status depends on salary. And my mentality is money oriented. I'm destined to live a dream for all my peeps who never made it this year. We were beginners in the hoods, 5%, but some must have got in us because all of us turned to sinners. Now, so resting in peace of some are sitting in and quitting. Others, such as myself, are trying to carry on tradition. I mean, God, I mean, look at that. Just that right there, as well as everything else that he said, that's his best verse ever. He's had a lot of dope verses after that, but that verse, most people know him by that, keeping it real, packing still getting high, because life's a bitch and then you die. I mean, great stuff, great stuff. And of course, Nas come behind him with an equally dope verse of his own, And going back to my comments, either way, this song highlighted the beginning of a defined chemistry Nas and AZ had with each other over the years. And the trumpet at the end by Nas's father, Alu Dara, was a very nice touch. Again, another 5 out of 5 song. Great, great, great stuff here. 5 out of 5. Now we get into the next highlight. The World Is Yours, and this classic. Now take a look at this album, this cover right here. Now I have a story about this. Now I did have this single. My mom's boyfriend at the time, Wade, he bought me the single. I believe it was maybe somewhere between $7 and $10. And of course, I played this joint to death. I mean, I love this song, you know. And again, anytime I listen to it, it brings me back, just so many memories. And of course, you know, not my luck or anything, but something mysteriously happened to it. Now, I think I may know because I had an idea then regarding what happened to my damn tape. And I want to say one of my cousins, I don't want to put his name out there, but if he's listening, he knows who I'm talking about. I think on the low, he ripped my damn tape and and just pretty much destroyed it. And when I said destroyed it, I had to rewind it and get the tape back inside, but it was damaged. And I mean, it was clearly nothing that could be done. And I knew he did it. I didn't confront him about it because all he was going to do was deny it, but we were so young at the time, and I was willing to put up some fists about this tape, but I just never did. But if he's listening, he know who I'm talking about. And when I see him soon, which is probably going to be for Mother's Day this year, I'm probably going to bring this up to him. But at any rate, like I said, anytime I'm asked or have been asked, what's your favorite Nas song? This is the one that usually comes up. This Piano Lace joint was produced by Pete Rock. And again, I go back to that memorable opening. I sipped the Don P, watching Gandhi till I'm charged it right. And in my book of rhymes, all the words past the margin. The whole of mic, I'm thriving, mechanical movement, understandable smooth shit that murderers move with, the thief's thing. Play me at night, that won't act right. The fiend of hip hop has got me stuck like a crack pipe. The mind activation, react like I'm facing time like Pappy Mason with pins on my bracing. Wipe the sweat off my dome, split the film on the streets. Suede Timbs on my feet makes my cipher complete. Whether cruising in a six cab, a Montero Jeep, I can't call it. The beats make me fall into sleep. I keep falling, but never falling 6 feet deep. I'm out for presidents to represent me. Say what? I'm out for presidents to represent me. Say what? I'm out for dead presidents to represent me. Bam, first verse, y'all. I mean, classic, classic, classic. Love this song. Love the song. Love the video. It's great, And like I said, I fell in love with the song when I first heard it. And anytime I hear it today, it always takes me back. Always takes me back. So again, 5 out of 5 for this classic. Definitely one of the best songs in his discography. And speaking of best songs, that brings us to the next one, Halftime. Man, you know, if there's one song of many that could probably give The World Is Yours a run for its money in terms of one of my favorite Nas songs, it has to be Halftime. I mean, like this, like most of the songs on this album, I love this song. You couldn't catch me in the streets without a ton of reefer. That's like Malcolm X catching the jungle fever. King Poetic, too much flavor. I'm major. Atlanta and Braver. I pull a number like a pager. Cause I'm an ace when I face the base. 40 side is the place that is giving me grace. Now wait, another dose and you might be dead. And I'm a Nike head. I wear chains that excite the feds, and then a damn thing gonna change. I'm a performer strange, so the mic woman was born the game. Nas, why did you do it? You know you got the mad fat fluid when you rhyme. It's halftime. Oh my god. Love this song. And I gotta continue this one. Okay. It's like that. You know it's like that. I gotta him now. You never get the mic back. When I attack, there ain't an army that can strike back. So I react, never calling you on the hype track. I say it off with my own rhyme, cause I'm as ill as a convict who kills for phone time. I max like a sex, I flex like sex in your stereo sets. Now as a catch wreck, I used to hustle. Now all I do is relax and strive. When I was young, I was a fan of the Jackson 5. I dropped Jews where Jews hope to never run it. With more kicks than the baby in the mother's stomach. Nasty Nas has to rise because I'm wise. This is exercise till the microphone dies. Back in '83, I was an MC sparking, but I was too scared to grab the mics in the parks and kick my little raps because I thought niggas wouldn't understand. And now in every jam, I'm the fucking man. I rap in front of more niggas than in the slave ships. I used to watch chips, now I load Glock clips. I got to have it. I miss Mr. Magic, versatile. My style switches like a, but not bisexual. I'm an intellectual and I'm a professional, and that's no question. These are the lyrics of the man you can never understand because industry is unwell known like the number man. In my place with the bass and format, explore rap, and tell me Nas ain't all that. And next time I rhyme my B5, whenever I freestyle, I seek trial. Niggas say I'm wild. I hate a rhyme by this rhyme. Stay tuned now. Soon the real rap comes at halftime. Oh my goodness, man. I should throw this on right now while I'm recording, but I continue it on. Just quotes galore, you know. And like I said here, the quotes are still amazing to this day, you know. Do the third verse. Okay, I could probably do that. Okay. I got it going on. Even flip them on the song every afternoon. I kick half the tune, and in the darkness, I'm heartless. Like when the knocks hit work, the Marcus Garvey, I hardly sparked it. Because when I blast the herb, that's my word. I be slaying them fast, doing this, that, and the third. But chill past the Andre and let's lay. I bag bitches up at John Jay and hit a man at Nate, pulling hits on 5-0. Because when it's my time to go, I wait for God with the fofo. And biters can't come near. And yo, go to hell to the foul cop who shot Garcia. I want plan C, don't need an extra mouth I can't feed. That's extra filling change, more cash for that. This goes out to Manhattan, the island of Staten, Brooklyn and Queens is living fat, and the boogie down. Enough props, enough clout. Ill will, rest in peace, yo, I'm out. Man, did I really sing this whole song just like that without doing the hook that much and leaving out a few lines of the first verse? I think I just did, but at any rate, like I said, another classic here, and based on what I said here in my notes, I do recall hearing Nas say that this song was sequenced at song 5 to service purpose as a halftime, like an intermission before we get to the second half of the album. So basically, what we got was a dope breather, and that's what it was. Again, another 5 out of 5 song classic, you know. And I can sing this song just like a few others, you know, at the snap of a finger. Great stuff. So the next highlight, memory lane sitting in the park. I say that Nas has always done back in the day type songs as well as documenting his experiences from childhood to adulthood. This song was the first in which Nas highlights these things in such a descriptive way. Again, 5 out of 5, none more to say there. One Love, produced by Q-Tip, in a lyrical letter dedicated to some of Nas's friends who were locked down, including Cormega. He all but makes sure he still shows love to them. And even though he has ambitions to make it in hip hop, he hasn't forgotten them. You know, great stuff. You know, I always loved that. And it was another remix to that too, which kind of puts you in the mode of Ill and Al Scratch, Where My Home Is, or something that you would have heard from Ill and Al Scratch, just probably with different lyrics at the time. But again, One Love, definitely a great song. You know, always love it. Let me see. What up, kid? I know shit is rough doing your bid. When the cops came, you should have slid to my crib. Fuck it, black. No time for looking back. It's done. Plus, congratulations, you know you got a son. I heard it looks like you. Why don't you let it right you? Told her she should visit. That's when she got hyper, flipping, talking about he acts too rough. He didn't listen. He be riffing while I'm telling him stuff. I was like, yeah, sure, he don't care. She a snake too, fucking with them niggas from that fake crew that hate you. But yo, guess who got shot in the dome piece? Jerome's niece on the way home from Joan Beach's blood, plus little Rob for selling drugs on a dime, hanging out with young thugs that all carry knives, and nighttime is more trife than ever. What up with Omega? Did you see him? Are y'all together? If so, then hold the fort down, represent to the fullest. Say what's up to Herb, Ice and Bullet. I left, I have 100 in your commissary. You was my nigga when push came to shove. One what? One love. 5 out of 5, y'all. Need I say more? Man, and we still got a ways to go, y'all. All right, so the next highlight here, one time for your mind. Nothing much to say here other than Nas comes nice over a smooth, large pro track, 5 out of 5. Then we move to another one, Represent. Love this one, produced by DJ Premier. They call me Nas. I'm not your legal type of fella. My wet drinking marijuana, smoking street dweller who's always on the corner, rolling up blessed. When I dress, it's never letting less than guess. Kobe walking with a bop and my head turned back. Love committing sins and my friends sell crack. This nigga raps with a razor, keep it under my tongue. The school dropout. Never like that shit from day one. Cause life ain't shit but stress, fake niggas and crap stunts. So I guzzle my Hennessy while pulling up mad blunts. The brutalizer, crucidizer, accelerator. The type of nigga who be pissing in your elevator. Somehow the rap games remind me of the crack game. You just sport battles and gazelles with black frames. Now I'm into fat chain, sex and text. 5 new chicks and new kicks, heinies and backs. Represent, 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 represent. So my stacks of fat, this is what about. See, I done got myself started. Before the BDP conflict with MC Shan, around the time with Sean Tate, this the real rock saying, I used to wake up on the corner, see my crew on the block. Every day is a different plan that has running from cons. If we not, yeah, let me stop right there. I know the rest, but let me stop right there before I end up mumbling. And I don't want to do that. I don't want to mess this up. But y'all get where I'm going, you know. So another DJ Premier produced banger, all about representing where you're from and being proud of it. Nas wastes no time ripping the beat to pieces, and he did that over this 5 out of 5 highlight. And we come to the album's closer, which is It Ain't Hard to Tell, another classic. And what most people probably don't know or don't remember, I think Nas was the first MC who Michael Jackson greenlit a sample for, because if you listen closely, there's the Human Nature sample in the background. So I think Nas was the first MC that Michael Jackson gave that blessing to, because previously, as you all know, there was a Right Here Human Nature remix by SWV, which I want to say came out in 93 or 94, and they were the first R&B artists to be able to use a Michael Jackson sample. So I consider that a good thing, a great thing. Now, I don't think anybody predates Nas. If that's the case, let me know. you know, Even though I'm a long time hip hop fan, I'm not adverse to somebody correcting me. But as far as I can remember, Nas was the first MC to get that blessing from Michael Jackson. And rest in peace of Michael Jackson. We miss that. We miss him. So continuing on, this classic, It Ain't Hard to Tell. I excel, then prevail. The mic is contracted, I attract clientele. My mic check is life or death, breathing the sniper's breath. I exhale the yellow smoke of Buddha through righteous steps, deep like the shiner, sparkle like an owl, sneaking Uzi in my army jacket line, hit the earth like a comet invasion. Nas is like the Afrocentric Asian, half man, half amazing. Cause in my physical, I can express through song, delete stress like Motrin, the next in strong. Drink my wet with Medusa, give a shotguns in hell from the spliff that I lived in hell. It ain't hard to tell. Classic. Love this joint. And like I said, that one quote, it does this song no justice at all. And lyrically, it's one of his best, hands down. And he had that been focused completely when he was making it. Yeah, and you can tell it, the guy said his rap should be locked in a cell. Come on. So great stuff here. So my final thoughts on the album, as you can probably imagine, no amount of hyperbole / praise can put this album in the proper context. Not only did it receive a then coveted not only did it receive a then coveted 5 mic rating from The Source upon his release, which I'm going to refer to briefly. In their 100th issue, It was also voted as the most overlooked album. That's certainly not the case today, as it's likely one of the most praised albums in hip hop history. That's really so. Nas, or Nasty Nas, as he was also called, was so lyrically sharp that he forced other MCs to follow suit and step their lyrical game up. He also linked up with some of the finest producers in hip hop at the time to create some soulful East Coast style production to make your head nod. What more can I say? It's my number one favorite album of all time, as well as my pick for the greatest album of all time. And going back to the source article at the end, Shorty said, quote unquote, the bottom line is this: even if the album doesn't speak to you on that personal level, the music itself is still well worth the money. Well said. So yes, again, great album, 5 stars. And the success, it moved 59,000 copies in its first week, became certified gold on January 17th, 1996, became certified platinum in 2001. It should be double platinum by now, but I digress. But again, good stuff, man. Good stuff. Again, great album. Definitely the best album of 1994. So, with that being said, we move on to 1996, the sophomore album. It was written, released on July 2nd, 1996. And check this out. It was released 1 week after Reasonable Doubt from Jay-Z. Jay-Z's debut, and of course, that has a connection because that was released on my birthday, June 25th, So definitely some interesting things here. And I also think that De La Soul Stakes is High also came out on July 2nd, 1996, So that's a little bit of historical, information there. All right. So, and what I said here was after releasing his critically acclaimed 1994 debut, Illmatic, saying that Nas's sophomore album was one of the most heavily anticipated albums of 1996 will be a complete understatement. Backing up a bit on very notable collaborations in 1995 with Mobb Deep, Eye for an Eye, Your Beef Is Mine, Cool G Rap, Fast Life, and Raekwon, Verbal Intercourse, which may be his best verse ever. He adopted the nickname / alter ego Nas Escobar, named after the infamous drug lord Pablo Escobar. Some embraced this change, others didn't, but make no mistake about it, Nas could still deliver the goods on the mic. Oh, and before I get to that, so a drug dealer's dream, stash cream keys on a triple beam, 500 SL green, 95 nickel gleam condominium, thug dressed like a gentleman, tailor-made ostrich, Chanel for my women friend, murdering, numbers on your head while I'm burgering, shank a server number, what's up to all my niggas swerving in New York metropolis, the Queensbridge apocalypse, shoot at the cops, feels like the holy beast is watching us, man, my sanity is growing like an hourglass, gun inside my bad hand, I slice, try to bag grams, I got hoes I used to milk, niggas who could have killed you is down with my ill crew of psychos. Nas Escobar moving on your weak production. Pumping corruption in third world, we just busting. That verse from Eye for an Eye, that was the beginning of Nas Escobar. Now, when I think about it, after all these years, that's when it started, So there we have it. So, and also going into this album, I remember seeing the promotional commercials on BET at the time, and every time I seen them, I got hyped, because his sophomore album was one of the biggest was one of the most anticipated albums that year, especially that summer. The summer of '96 was pretty good, So so we about to go into this one, and of course, I got a couple of stories before I go into it. So back in the day, I had 3 versions of this on cassette, and one of them was the clean version, which I'm about to talk about now. And I bought the CD twice. I bought the CD. The first time I bought it, I'm gonna talk about that later during this story. And the second time I bought it was also in 2003. I bought that when I bought another copy of Illmatic. Both of those were from Circuit City. So this first story I want to tell regarding this album, this was also in the summer of '96. At this point, I had to have been 12 years old. And I was at a summer camp. My mom, bless her heart, she loves sending me to summer camps, but I get it, she didn't want me in the house a lot, so she, sent me to summer camps, which I ended up having a ball anyway. So, mission accomplished there. But I was at this particular summer camp. This was Lee Park, had a good time there. So one of the coaches or teachers, his name was AK. I never forget this guy. Um, at one point, I was collecting basketball cards at this time. I was watching basketball here and there, the NBA. My favorite team at the time was the Chicago Bulls. And, I had a nice little collection going. So, um, and one time he had pulled up to the park, him and this other guy. I can't recall his name. I probably would know him if I see him. They pulled up and they was bumping the Nas joint. So I just straight up walked up to him. And keep in mind, I'm 12 years old at the time. I went up to him. I was like, just randomly, man, I got these basketball cards. I'll give them to you if you trade me the Nas tape for it. And he was like, all right, so so one time he let me go. I walked with him to the car and I was listening to it. And I noticed that, some words were bleeped out. So I was like, okay. So then the next day I brought my cards with me and he came back with the tape. So I went into the car and I'm thinking, okay, maybe I was hearing things and there's gonna be some cussing. We had to have the explicit version, okay? So I was listening to it again and I told him, I was like, it's no cussing on here. Now this guy, bless his heart, in a blatant lie, he said, man, they got all the cussing in the world on that joint. And I was 12. I ain't know no better. Well, okay, we can argue that, but I was like, okay, now keep in mind, I knew better, but I just wanted this tape so bad, I just let it go. Now, one of my friends who graduated with me, his name is Tyrone, and if he's listening to this, he knows who I'm talking about, and he'll probably be surprised that I remember this. But I remember when he saw that I gave away my cards. Now, keep in mind, I had a nice collection of basketball cards. And basically, that whole collection was worth more than that tape. I tell you that. Tyrone wasted no time raking me over the coals. He was like, "Man, you stupid! How could you trade your basketball cards in for a $10 tape? What's wrong with you, man?" And I was like, "I just want this tape, man." But after a while, it hit me. Yeah, Tyrone was right, because I did let go of my basketball cards for that. But I digress. So it was, man, that was funny. I wouldn't do something like that today, but like I said, that just shows how much I wanted this album. And interestingly enough, I knew I had been taken advantage of, so I ain't even bothered to listen to the tape when I got home because I was taking for my cards. Now, I didn't hold anything towards AK for it because I mean, he got the cards out of the ordeal and I got a tape. So, what was I gonna do? Go home and tell my mama? Oh, you know, so it's all good. So I mean, just some memories with that. So more memories. So that same month, July, we had a family trip. We went to Hershey Park. Now, on this particular day, I had a new copy of Raekwon's Only Built for Cuban Links. I don't think it was the purple tape. I think it was like a clear version of it. And my aunt Nisi or Denise, she had the Nas tape too. Now, during this trip, that's one of the only tapes that I listened to. And I remember just again, much like Illmatic, I fell in love with it. And I fell in love with it so much that I didn't give her the tape back. I kept the tape for my own collection, and she didn't even ask for it back. I don't know if she forgot about it or if she was like, I'll just let him have it. I could buy another one, but yeah, I ain't give it back. I sure didn't. So then fast forward a couple of months. So it was in November of 96 when I started collecting CDs. So going into 1997, that's when I started collecting CDs and buying CDs. So me and my longtime friend Sean, and if Sean is listening to this, shout out to you, brother. Longtime friend. So we went to a local record store, and for those of you born and raised in Petersburg, you remember Crockett's record tapes and CDs on Washington Street, you know. So I went there, and my intention all along was to buy the CD when I went there. But Sean, he in a good way, he was pressuring me to buy OGC's The Storm, you know, from the boot camp clip. You know, now on a side note, I would get that CD, but I would get it much later. Sean, he was like basically almost on my shoulder, and he kept saying, I'm telling you, I'm telling you, I'm telling you, you know, like, you know, you better get that OGC. So I was like, you know, I just kind of chuckled a bit, and I told the guy behind the counter, I was like, you know, give me the Nas joint. It was written. So that's that particular story. So yeah, so like I said, all I could do was just laugh. You know, I mean, he was all up on me. You know, I'm telling you, I'm telling you, I'm telling you. And again, he'll probably be surprised that I remember that, but I remember a lot of stuff, y'all. And as you know continue to stick with me through this channel, you'll see how far my memory goes back. Like I said, I'm 39, and that happened when I was 12, going on 13. So you can see, you know, how far my memories go back. So now one more memory before I finally get into this album. So I remember also in the summer of '96, this had to have been like in August or something. Me and my mom had went riding somewhere. We went to a local store. She had to get something. And I was just sitting in the car waiting for her. So one car pulled up, somebody was playing live nigga rap. Then a few moments later, another car pulled up playing the message. And I was like, well, damn, you know, I mean, I didn't say damn, but even as a 12-year-old boy, you know, pushing teenage years, I was like, man, this album is hidden. And of course, I knew that, you know. So like I said, many memories going into this album. You know, again, one of the most anticipated albums of 1996. Definitely one of the best albums of 96. So we're gonna go ahead and get into it. So, all right. So the highlights, of course, we start with the message. You know, probably one of the most gangster songs he ever did. Fake thug, no love, you get the slug. See before gusto, your luck low. I didn't know till I was drunk though. You freak niggas played out. Get fucked and ate out. Prostitute turn bitch, I got the gauge out. 96 ways I made out. Montana way to good FELLA. Verbal AK spray. Dipped, attach it. Jumped out the range. Empty out the ashtray. A glass of Zay make a man catch his clay. Red dot plots. Murder schemes. 32 shotguns. Regulate with my done. 17 rocks gleam from one ring. But let y'all niggas know one thing. Is one life. One love, so there can only be one king. Great. I love this song. A thug changes and love changes and best friends become strangers. Word up. I mean, great stuff, you know. And going with my comments here, a dude I knew named Daniel, we had worked at Pizza Hut together. I remember him telling me at the time, he said, bro, this is the hardest thing he's ever done. And he probably was right, you know. And as I continue to say here, the message is a great title for this because Nas was already telling you what direction he was heading in, either roll with it or get rolled over. A 5 out of 5 song, classic, great stuff, and a damn sure good way to start this album. And speaking of good stuff, we go right into the next one, Street Dreams. God's sake, what a nigga got to do to make a 500,000 without the FBI catching feelings? Street dreams are made of these. I mean, I love this joint, you know, and of course, I like the video because it's a basic visual interpolation of Casino, which is my number 6 favorite movie of all time. You know, my man put me up for a share, one for the square, headed to Delaware with one change of gear. Nothing on my mind but the dime sack we blaze with the glaze of my eye that we find when we crave $1,000. A fugitive with 2 attempts. Jake's had a trace for the face. Now they drew a print. Though I'm innocent to prove guilty, I'm gonna try to get filthy. Purchase a club and start up a realty for real dream. I'm gonna fulfill my dream. No, I'm gonna fulfill my dream. If I conceal my scheme, then precisely I build my cream. The first clip without the trick, sink the bitch with the quarter brick. This is it. Fresh face and white plates got a crooked eye for them jakes. I want it all. I'm a raw Benz at endless pace. God's sake, what a nigga got to do to make a 500,000 without the FBI catching feelings? There it is, you know. And I remember I surprised a guy named Steven way back in the day. This was in 2009 at a job, and he was like, "Man, I never heard somebody sing a Nas verse like right off the top just like that." So I blew his mind. This was a guy who was trying to become a rapper himself. So he was like, you know, just spit a Nas verse right now, and it was that first verse from Street Dreams that I just came out with. Like I said, blew his mind. So So with that being said, my comments, every kid wants something that's forbidden, and Nas does a very good job detailing that here. Even Nas still had a street, excuse me, even Nas still has street dreams at this point in his career. 5 out of 5, classic. And speaking of classics, we go right into the next one. Lord, I love this song. I Gave You Power. One of the most brilliant concept songs ever in hip hop. Nas eloquently talks about himself as a gun, all the while describing the twists, turns, and effects that it brings. The third verse was voted as the best verse of 1996 in the Source magazine's year-end issue for that year. Must be heard to be appreciated. Man, like I said, I love this song. Produced by DJ Premier. I mean, you want to talk about concept songs? This will be at the top of the list if it's not number one. I seen some cold nights and bloody days. They grabbed me, bullet sprayed. They used me wrong, so I sing this song to this day. My body is cold, still for real. I was made to kill. That's why they keep me concealed under car seats. They sneak me in clubs, been in the hands of mad thugs. They feed me when they load me with mad slugs. 17 precisely. One in my head. They call me Desert Eagle. See me all with lead. I'm 7 inches, 4 pounds. Been through so many towns. I hired a little ride to Canarsie, living harshly, beat up and battered. They put me out. I watch these niggas scatter, making me kill. But what I feel, it never mattered. When I'm empty, I'm quiet. Finding myself feeding to be fire. A broken safety niggas place me in shells under bed, so I beg for my next owner to be a thoroughbred, keeping me fill up with hollow heads. How you like me now? I go blind. What's that shit that moves crowds, making every ghetto foul? I might have took your first child, scarred your life, I crippled your style. I gave you power. I made you buck wow. Man, should I go on? Man, mm, man. I can sit right here and sing that whole song, but yeah, like I said, it must be heard to be appreciated. It's just great stuff, man. All right, the next one, Taken in Blood. This is 4 out of 5. This Ultramagnetic MC sample track is probably one of the more underrated songs on the album. Dope stuff. I never brag. How real I keep it? Because it's the best secret. I rock a vest, prestigious. Cuban link, flooded Jesus. Intellects, watch it, Kathleen and Regis. My actions are one with the Caesars. A tech squeezing, executioner. What a time I rock a for. Mega popular, center of attraction. Climaxing. My bitches, they be laughing while out for sniffing coke off a 20 cent Andrew Jackson. I love this song. I can't think of the Ultramagnetic MC's song off the top of my head, and quite frankly, I don't even feel like going to the back to get the insert to see what that song is, but it comes from one of their songs from the Critical Beatdown album. But again, great stuff. Speaking of great stuff, that brings us to the next classic, a 5 out of 5 one. Nas is Coming. I love this one. This was huge in 96. Well, for me, it was. Nas was the first New York MC to collaborate with Dr. Dre. Some have said this could have been better, but it's truly epic to me for obvious reasons. Oh, yeah, this instrumental was played during a commercial promoting the release of the album, another factor that had me hyped. And that's what I said at the beginning when they were showing the promotional videos on BET at the time, prior to the album's release, it had me hooked each time, and I love this song, love it. And it's another one of them songs that sound good when you play it at night too. So definitely 5 out of 5 material. And it wouldn't be the last time that Nas works with Dr. Dre. And we're going to go into that, throughout this project as well. Give me 1 second, guys. All right. Sorry about that. We continue on. All right. So the next highlight is affirmative action. This was the introduction of supergroup The Firm, which was also a big deal in '96, and this consisted of Nas, Core Mega, and Foxy Brown. Nas had that ill line, which may or may not have been written by Core Mega. Life's a bitch, but God forbid, excuse me. Life's a bitch, but God forgive the bitch divorce me. I'll be flooded with ice, so hell fire can't scorch me. Cuban cigars mean Foxy at the Mars moving cars, the top pocket senior Escobar. Yeah, okay. Um, so yeah, so this was the first introduction of the firm, and I remember being hyped for this group at the time, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in the project. Either that or I'm gonna save that for a separate post. And going back to again the summer 1996, as I say here, I remember Nas was on an episode, and my cousin Amp, again, shout out to my cousin Amp. I stayed with him that weekend, and his dad, Pulu, he was in the back, and he had called Amp. He said, Amp, y'all turn the TV to Showtime at the Apollo. And when he turned to it, Nas was just about to come out the back, and he had did If I Ruled the World. And then when they came back out, that's when they did the rendition of Affirmative Action. I still remember that. All right. So continuing on to the next highlight, Black Girl Lost. Now, talk about a song that's more relevant in 2024 than it was in 1996. I've always liked what Nas talking about on this aptly titled song. On one end, he talks about the Black girl with supreme admiration and respect, but on the flip side, he's disappointed with the way she carries herself. Very, very good song. You know, I would say today's generation need to check out that song because, like I said, it's way more relevant today than it was in 1996. I tell you that, but still a good song. Excuse me. Next up, next highlight, live nigga rap. This Mobb Deep assisted song still bangs. Back in the day, I remember turning my system up sky high when I played this. Oh yeah, I certainly did. It's no denying that. My system loved it. So, and again, you got the Queen's connection here, so nothing but great stuff. And speaking of great stuff, that takes us to the album closer. Basically, his biggest single to date, If I Ruled the World. Imagine that, featuring Lauryn Hill, who was also on a roll at the time because the Fugees dropped the score in 96 and they were just on fire. 96 was a great year, for hip hop. One of the best songs in 96 and one of only two Nas songs that still receive radio play to this day. And trust me, the second one, I'm going to be talking about that pretty soon. So, along with the promotional Columbia Records, this classic sold the album, and it's still something to behold listening to Nas talk about what he would do if he ruled the world. Lauryn Hill was great on the hook, and much love goes to the legendary Curtis Blow for the original. Great stuff, man. Just a thought for the mind. I take a man. Should I go there? But like I said, I've always loved this song. Definitely one of his most known songs, and I think his biggest single to date. I don't think he's gonna ever have another bigger song again until who knows when. But definitely one of the highlights of '96, and definitely one of the album's highlights. And it closes the album on a good note, or does it close the album? So that brings me to the next point. Now most of us longtime fans do recall a time when bonus tracks were on, came with CDs, and sometimes they came with the cassette. And in this case, there was an awesome song called Silent Murder. And again, like I said here, I don't know whose bright idea was it to put it on the cassette and not the CD, and it made no sense to me then, and it made no sense now. But apparently somebody down the road decided to remaster the album and put it on later pressings. It should have been on the original pressing at first, But Silent Murder, I love that song, man. And if I was to rate that song, I would definitely give it a 5 out of 5. It's sort of like the conclusion, The Color Purple. I mean, it's like Silent Murder. I hit blunts hard like Ray Mercer. I mean, great stuff, man. Great stuff. So let's see. So what did I say about this one? Overall, this is still an excellent album from top to bottom. I still remember the semi-heavy criticism at the time, which ranged from Nas sold out, he had abandoned his original style, the Trackmaster's production was too commercial. And yeah, I didn't even go through, I was so busy talking, I didn't even go through the actual list of producers. But let me back up. And go to that. So behind the boards on this album was Nas himself, Tone and Pope, Trackmasters, some of the notable names, Trackmasters, DJ Premier, Dre, Havoc, Elias, Rashad Smith, and then of course the featured guests AZ, Core Mega, Foxy Brown, JoJo from Jodeci, Mobb Deep, and Lauryn Hill. So basically, you could say like kind of a list of who's who from 1996. But continuing on, where did I stop at? I respect those views. However, Nas still came through nicely. I feel it's still unfairly compared to Illmatic. And yes, it's not on the level of that album, but it's no sophomore jinx. It remains his most successful album to date with 4 million copies sold. And after multiple listens over the years, my rating is still the same. Now, as you can see here, I put 4.5 stars. Now, initially, I always gave this album 4 stars, but after a lot of repeat listens and a lot of perspective over years, I had to take it up to 4.5. And trust me, I would love to give it a 5-star rating, but I can only give it a 4.5-star rating. And speaking of which, in my hand right now, I have the August 1996 edition of The Source. And yeah, I still got some classic issues and I'm still trying to get my hands on some more. And yes, The Source was the hip hop Bible at the, way back in the day. And really, I still, I still go by these issues, these older issues. That's how influential they were to the culture at the time. So in this particular issue, they not only did they review Jay-Z's Reasonable Doubt, which they gave 4 mics, they reviewed It Was Written as well, and they gave it 4 mics. So I'm just looking through here in real time and just seeing, some notable points. This was written by where's the author's name? Mark Landaz. So It Was Written, Nas Escobar presents his audience with a more mature version of the man he started introducing in Illmatic. Though his rhyme style has not changed drastically, there's no use tampering with something so close to rhyme perfection. You hear that? The themes, viewpoints, and creative angles flaunted throughout the album are sublime. Let's see. He says that Black Girl Lost is a gently optimistic ode to the hopeless plight of young Black women. The message is a vivid description of the complexities posed by the ghetto. Said affirmative action is an off the hook posse jam with an Italiano feel to it. Let's see. Said for Nas, ghetto reality is a grisly one held captive by confusion and death. This is made chillingly clear on the apocalyptic track I Gave You Power, where Nas imagines himself as a semi-automatic desert eagle. And in the end, he says, It Was Written is an audio anthology of ghetto stories told by one of hip-hop's most prolific writers. If ever there was a straight-up genius in hip-hop par excellence, his name would have to be Nas. Check that out. Not just a hip-hop artist or rhymer or celebrity, Nas Escobar is a hip-hop visionary. I couldn't agree more, man. Yeah, so again, It Was Written, definitely a worthy successor to Illmatic. And like I said, and like anybody else would tell you, Nas will probably tell you this. Illmatic was great. It Was Written is great too, but it can't hold a candle to Illmatic. No way. Close, maybe, but not on the level of Illmatic. So continue on. We move to 1999 with album number 3, I Am, released on April the 6th, 1999. 1996's It Was Written was a massive success across the board, even if Nas had alienated some of his fan base along the way, according to some people on the matter. Although it was untitled at the time, this was first announced as a double album in the insert of the Firm album. 97 and 98 saw Nas take somewhat of a hiatus while still on the scene making guest appearances here and there. I Am was another heavily anticipated album. However, an unfortunate happening took place before its release date. Apparently, bootleggers just had to get their hands on it because I Am was one of the first hip-hop albums to be so heavily bootlegged that it caused Nas to scrape most of the original album and record new songs. Some of the material that didn't make it headed straight to the vault, which will be covered when I get to Lost Tapes. Due to the anticipation being so high, it didn't halt the momentum at all. Now, Nas would say in one of his later albums, I can't recall which one off the top of my head, even though I did listen to it today, he did say that prior to Nipsey Hussle's passing, and rest in peace to that brother, they were going to do a documentary about that. Now, I'm not sure if it's finished and it's going to be released at another date or something like that, but it blew my mind when I heard that he was working with Nipsey Hussle to produce that, which would have been interesting because I do remember this. I Am was bootleg and it was bootleg heavily, and like I said, he had to scrape it and record new songs, which ended up on this album and on the next album that we're going to talk about. This also affected Mob Deep too, because as most of you probably remember, Murder Music was bootleg too, and they had to scrape some of the songs off that album and record new material. So bootlegging was a real thing. It may have been bittersweet. You get your hands on some good material, but the artists don't like that because excuse my French, you bootlegging their shit. And even Jay-Z said one time, public had to have it way before its release date. So that's bootlegging in a nutshell. So with all that being said, we go right into album number 3. The featured guest on here is Puff Daddy. I still call him Puff Daddy. I don't call him Diddy, y'all. Scarface and the late Aaliyah, rest in peace, and the late DMX, rest in peace. And again, behind the boards, again, a pretty good list of names. Basically those who were popping in 1999. The usual: DJ Premier, Trackmasters, Nasheem Merrick, Carlos Brody, LES, Grease, Timberland. They all had a presence on this album, as well as Alvin West. Okay, so we get right to the highlights here. The sequel to New York State of Mind. A lot of niggas scheming, some real, some niggas fronting, but I'm a big dreamer, so watch me come up with something. This DJ Premier produced banger starts the album off proper as opposed to the intro. I'm gonna speak on that a little bit. It's a dope sequel as you get Nas's State of Mind in 99 compared to how things were in 94. 5 out of 5. And like I said, let me go back to that intro, because what that intro should have done was it should have been a multitude of audio clips from Illmatic, and it was written basically going into this album. But instead, we just got, like this cliche tough talk intro with Jungle. And still to this day, I'm like, why? And no shade at Jungle, but you know, the ideas that I just showed, that would have been a much better intro than just Jungle talking all this tough guy shit. Come on now. But anyway, um, so we got that. Then we go to the next one, Hate Me Now, featuring Puff Daddy. Look, let me tell you something. Nas went in on this one. He had to been feeling it, people criticizing his direction, and because at this time he was still in Nas Escobar mode. So Nas went in on this one. You know, hate the money I see, clothes that I buy, ice that I wear, hoes that I dry. Close your eyes, picture me rolling, sixes money, strolling the riches. Nice get in you. Most critically acclaimed Pulitzer Prize winner, best storyteller, thug narrator, my style grader, model data. Big threat to a lot of you haters. Commentators ringside vibe watching my paper. He was going in almost a decade, most impressive. Mm. Want me off the scene fast, but good things last. Like your favorite MC, still making some mean cash. First rapper to bring a platinum plat back to the projects, but you still want to hate? Be my guest. I suggest. He was going in, man. And going in, that takes you to the next verse. You want to hate me and they hate me. What can I do but keep getting money? Funny, I was just like you. I had to hustle hard, never give up until I made it. Now y'all saying that's a clever nigga, nothing to play with. Hate on me. I blew when I'm the same OG. People warn me, when you on top, there's envy. Took my niggas out your hood, but you down on us. Claiming we left the hood, but can't take it out of us. My bad. Should I step on my shoes, give them to you? Here's my cars in my house. You can live in that too. Criticize when I flow for the street. Hate my dress code. Gucci this, Finny that. What you expect, ho? Nickname Esco. Take this game to its threshold. Best flow, I let the whole US know. Try to make it like you the realest, but who the hell is think? We all know the answer to that, because niggas feel us, right? He was going in. That line, criticize when I flow for the street, hate my dress code, Gucci this, Finny that. What you expect, ho? I love that line. Because because he said it with such conviction, like what, you know? And like I said, going to my comments, Nas went in on this classic, and I feel Puff Daddy was the right man for the hook. Nas received undeserved hate and criticism stemming from the It Was Written album, and this was one hell of a defined statement to all his haters/detractors. You can hate me now because I won't stop now, because I can't stop now. I feel that. Like I said, 5 out of 5. And of course, the last lines that I love too. Niggas fear what they don't understand, hate what they can't conquer. That's the world today, right there, man. Straight up. So the highlights continue with Small World. It's a small world. Nigga, you reap what you sow. What goes around comes around. If you sleep, you won't know. A very hard world where beef never ends. At the time you least expect it, you will see it again. It's a small world. You get away with it now. Soon enough, it catches up to you some way, somehow. It's a small world. Watch what you do. Great song, you know. And like I said here, these lines from Nas effectively summarize the story told here. It bangs too. 5 out of 5. And the 5 out of 5 highlights continue with the next one, Favor for a Favor, with Scarface. You got me, I got you. That's what it's all about. Nothing but the New York to Texas connection. Great stuff here. And let me see if I can do the hook off the top of my head. You wet who I want wetted. You wet who I want wetted. Any nigga can get it. I wet who you want wetted. You wet who I want wetted. Any nigga can get it. Yeah, a favor for a favor. Yeah, that's true. Yep. I got it. Sometimes that hook be slipping me up, but I got it right there, I think. All right. So over the course of 3 verses, the next highlight, We Will Survive. Over the course of 3 verses, Nas deliver verses dedicated to the late Notorious B.I.G. and Tupac. Rest in peace to them. We miss them. Even sending the shot to Jay-Z in the process by way of, and these niggas is wrong, using your name in vain, and they claim to be New York's king. It ain't about that. That was a clear shot at Jay-Z, and trust me, we gonna get to that war throughout this project. Rest assured. He also touches on the evolution of the culture. Hip hop took it to billions. I knew we would. And our future as a people. He gets a little more personal this time around, and it works. 5 out of 5. And speaking of 5 out of 5, that brings us to the next classic. Nas is Light. One of the best songs of 99. This is another DJ Premier produced banger, and it's one of my favorite songs from Nas as well. Nas is so many things to hip hop that one song is simply not enough to describe him. 5 out of 5. Is any man worthy of fame? Much success to you. Even if you wish me the opposite, sooner or later we'll all see who the prophet is. Live it and I write it down and I watch it blow up. Y'all know what I'm like. Y'all play it in your system every night now. And of course, going back to the beginning, Freedom of Jail, Clips Insert, a baby's being born. Great stuff. He was at home on this Primo production. Seriously. But like I said, another 5 out of 5 classic, another one of the highlights, maybe even the best song on the album, possibly, but it's still great. And great defines the next song, Money Is My Bitch. So here we go with the conceptual songs again. This is an excellent concept song, as the almighty dollar is the extreme equivalent to a good woman for Nas. Pretty remarkable, and too many quotables to list here. 5 out of 5. Definitely a damn good song. And then the album closes with Undying Love, in which the album closes with Nas flexing his storytelling muscles, delivering a compelling beginning, middle, and end on this one. Without going into the plot too much, I would say it must be heard to be appreciated. 4 out of 5. Yeah, definitely one of the highlights. So now, for the first time ever, we're going to go into the low points on this album, and there's really 2 of them. So we start with Big Things. Now, Big Things wasn't a bad song. It's just that, let me know if you agree with this or not. At least at this point, I didn't think the double time flow fit Nas. He did well with it here, and it wouldn't be the last time he attempts the double time flow. But something about this, like I said, the song ain't bad. It's just that the double time flow didn't fit him, for this song. But I could be wrong, you know. So that's the one low point. And then the next low point, Kissing. Okay, let me read this one verbatim. Now, I can't recall what year it was. So it had to have been sometime in '99. But I remember hearing Nas say that R. Kelly is when a woman's fed up, which was a hit in '99, was so tight that he quote unquote had the jacket. Um, so I want to stop it right there. Now the song itself, I mean, the ladies would love it, but the fellas mostly didn't. It was okay for what it was, nothing more. But I want to comment on Nas, jacking when a woman's fed up. Now, my cousin Andre, if he's listening to this, shout out to him. But he didn't really listen to Nas like that. But even he called it out. He was like, now I don't think he listened to R. Kelly back in the day, but even Andre was like, man, the song is hitting right now, and you sampled it like you jacking it already. Like what? So now my cousin Andre was calling out something like that, then it had to have been a big deal. So I just thought I'd go into that one. So my final thoughts here. And by the way, the source did um review this one in one of their issues. They gave it 4 mics and a half. There is a copy of it online, but it wasn't the whole article. So I would have included it, but it was no use in getting a half article. So I wanted to mention that. But at any rate, what we have here is the third straight excellent album in Nas's discography, also one of 1999's best albums. I still wonder what the initial album would have sounded like had the bootlegging not taken place. While others may disagree, I feel it's a better album than it was written. Now, as you can see, I revised that. I said I gotta revise this statement. I Am is an excellent album, but it's not better than it was written. Hell no, no way. Lyrically, he was still shopping at the time, expanding his subject matter, and man, his career would take a rather interesting turn on the next album. Yes, it would. So 4.5 stars for this album, becoming certified triple platinum, and it sold 470,000 copies in its first week. Impressive. Let me step away for a second. One moment, y'all. All right. All right. We getting it in, y'all. We getting it in. Okay. All right. Now, next up, we have Nostradamus, released on November 23rd, 1999. It was planned to be released on October 26, 1999, as noted in the I Am album insert, but the bootlegging that plagued it caused a change in plans. So, this album is going to be interesting. It's album number 4. And then I go into my next thing. Now this was when he was on an episode of Rap City. And also, let me back up a little bit because at this point in hip hop, the only two artists who had two albums come out and they be successful were Tupac by way of All Eyes on Me coming out in February of '96, and then the Machiavelli album, even though it was a posthumous release, and forgive me, I pronounced that wrong, that came out later in the year, but I still credit it as Pac being the first to do that. And then DMX did it in 1998. It's Dark and Hell is Hot came out in May of '98, and then Flesh of My Flesh, Blood of My Blood came out in December. And in contrast to Tupac in a way, DMX was just so hot in '98 that they had to get a second album out of him. And it worked. And trust me, I'm gonna talk about those in another video at some point on the channel. Now, Nas was different, and we're gonna get into that now. So I remember when he was on Rap City in '99. Big Tigger asked him, he was like, why 2 in 1 year? And Nas said, just more to say. Now that may be the case, but I think it was because of what happened with the bootleg and the I Am. And plus, I think that October 26, 1999 date, which was then changed, I think that was more of it possibly could have been a contractual obligation. I'm not sure. It could be. But, needless to say, I was looking forward to it. So going back to that part from Rap City, That was his response. He just said more to say, and that's all I remember from that interview. And continuing on, many were skeptical, but I wasn't. At this point in hip hop, only two artists have released two albums in 1 year and were very successful doing it. And I just mentioned that. Even with Nas's answer, most assumed this album to be nothing more than a collection of songs that either didn't make I Am, weren't good enough for that album, or both. And let me talk about this for a minute. So, of course, I got a story. So, I got another longtime friend, Kentel. If he's listening to this, shout out to him. Now, he never really felt Nas like that. He was more of a Jay-Z guy then, and he's probably more of a Jay-Z guy now. But I remember, we had stayed. I had stayed with him on one particular weekend, and Nas had a website. And on his website, he was playing some like some little audio samples from the album, and he was also talking about the songs in between. Now, I remember listening to him. I was I was impressed with what I heard, but Kentel was like, "No, I can't do this, man." So, needless to say, one of us was impressed, and the other person wasn't. So, I bought this album on Friday, November 26th, to be exact, 1999. Now, this was the week it came out. So I bought it a couple days later. And I also bought The Streets is Watching soundtrack from Circuit City. My mama took me. So yeah, I remember everything, and of course, with these memories, yeah, I remember. So now we finally get to the highlights of this album, and of course, the featured guests, we got Ron Asley, Nation, aka Millennium Thug. That's a weird name. Mob Deep, Bravehearts, and Genuine, and then behind the boards, of course, Nas. We got Rich Nice, LES, Dame Grease, Trackmasters, Premier, Havoc, and Timberland. So that's a hell of a lineup right there. Now, what role they're going to play, we're going to get into that right here. So, highlights, Life We Chose. I said I would have been perfectly fine with this song opening the album. It's aptly titled in its own way as Nas talks about life in general and what results in terms of the choices we make 4 out of 5. And speaking of 4 out of 5, that brings us to the next song, one of the singles from the album, Nostradamus. Uh, you want to ball, y'all? I can help you with that. You hold on, let me start off. I don't think it started that way. How to start? Well, let me skip. No, I think he starts it. Does he start that song? I haven't played in a while. What you want a ball till you fall? I can help you with that. You want beef? I can let a slug melt your hat because I'm a wild barbarian. Too hard, I'm scared of. Century 21 solar eclipse. While you listen to the words that I roll in the dense Valonius, my description is do rag. Pants sag down to my feet. AK is my heat. Every day in the street till I lay 6 feet. QB, PJs, and we playing for keeps. Jewelry, cars, and Jeeps is my motto. You know, this song was good. Nasty Nas to Esco to Escobar. Now he is Nostradamus. I mean, I had no problem with this song. I had no problem with it then. And I had no problem with it now. And going to my comments, this was a good choice for a first single. Fans and critics scoffed at this song for its apparent commercial image. And while it wasn't his best lyrically, it wasn't a bad song. And 2 points facts about this song. One, this was the first music video to use 3D technology. And two, the line, you want a ball till you fall, I can help you with that, was seen as a shot at Memphis Bleak, who threw a shot himself at Nas on my mind, right? Your lifestyle's written. So who you supposed to be? Play your position. This was on the beginning. Remember that, y'all? Yeah. So, and trust me, I'm gonna get to that. I'm gonna get to that. So, continuing on, we go to the next highlight. Some of us have angels. I love this song, and this is another one of those songs where it sounds good at night. Why? I don't know. It's just the lyrical content and the production makes it sound good at night. Just trust me when I say that. So I say that this is the second best song on the album. Nas effectively paints the verbal picture of those who have angels, kingdom, power, glory, and demons, greed, lust, temptation. And in addition, he talks about the people who struggle with both, even hinting that there are two sides of us, powerful and thought provoking. And again, 5 out of 5, great stuff. Project Windows featuring Ron Isley. I love this one too. Plan to leave something behind so your name will live on no matter what the game lives on. Without a doubt, this is the best song on Nostradamus. Prior to this album's release, there was a Nasheem Marek and Carlos Brody produced version that made the mixtape circuit in 99, but this final version, reproduced by the track masters, is very nice. This is not quite a down memory lane type song, but rather Nas talks about what he and others have seen growing up, looking out project windows, both positive and negative. Classic song here, and the soulful hook provided by Ron Isley was a nice addition. Yeah, great song. And like I said, best song on the album. Next up, we get another DJ Premier produced banger in the form of Come and Get Me. What I said here is this DJ Premier produced banger may not have the spark of New York State of Mind and Nas is like, but hot damn, Nas still comes through lyrically blazing at all haters. If you want me, come get me, because I ain't running. Listen closely, and you may notice some subliminal shots thrown at Jay-Z. Yeah, the war was simmering. The war was simmering, you know. So 4 out of 5 here. And the next two highlights are 4 out of 5. We got God Love Us. Um, Even though your most hardcore thugged out individuals are not perfect, none of us are. Nas makes the case here that God loves us all, no matter what. And New World, I like what he was aiming for in this one. He wasn't talking about the world at the time in 99, but rather giving his interesting predictions as to where the world was heading. Some of these predictions came true too. So you'll have to revisit that one to get the full scope of what he was talking about. So that right there, that's what the highlights is. So let's talk about the low points. So we get to another Nas album that has unfortunate low points. So starting with the first one, Shoot 'em Up. Let's get the obvious out the way first. Havoc's beat simply knocks, yes indeed. Now, Nas is my boy, but who told him making a thugged out version of the Christmas Carol was a good idea? This song stops the momentum of the album dead in its tracks. And I think this song came after Come Get Me. So that right there, that stopped the momentum right there. Quiet Niggas, this was more or less a showcase for Nas's crew, the Bravehearts, and they've never been impressive on the mic. They really haven't. And them guys came out with an album too. I never checked it out. I may check it out at some point just out of sheer curiosity, but I ain't in no rush to do it. This easily could have been left on the cutting room floor. Big Girl, Nas makes another one for the ladies. Well, this is not even on the level of Kissing, and this is the last song on the album he should have brought back the double time flow for. You know, I even agree with my own words. Okay, and last but not least, this one right here, You Owe Me. Okay, yes, it's that song, and trust me, it continues to be a sour note for a lot of people. This was even more critically maligned than Nostradamus was. In a way, I can see why. For example, when Nas and Genuine really trying to say women owed them for simple things such as holding their jewelry, interestingly enough, this is the second of only two Nas songs that still receive radio play today. Now, imagine that. The only two Nas songs that you hear on the radio today, depending on your area, is If I Ruled the World and You Owe Me. They don't even play Nostradamus on the radio, you know, and I still find that to be real interesting because You Owe Me is not one of his best works. And it's clear why they play it, you know, because of the genuine feature and the beat is, you know, the beat is okay, you know, but it was not one of Nas's finest moments, you know. So so then a note before I get to my final thoughts here. Um, for those who purchased the first pressing of the album, which I did, there was a track called Hustlers and Killers that was included as a bonus disc. And I said that it's good. And it certainly could have replaced songs like Shoot 'em Up, Big Girl, and Quiet Niggas. You know, it was a good song, not awesome, but decent enough where if it would have made the final cut, it would have been a welcome addition. And that leads me to my final thoughts. Now, here's what I said. Let's start with the fans and critics. While the album was a commercial, let's do that again. Let's start with the fans and critics. While the album was a commercial success, moving 232,000 copies in its first week, becoming certified platinum on December 22nd, 1999, It was not received well on a critical level, as feedback was largely mixed and negative. The singles Nostradamus and You Owe Me were not well received either, leading many to call this the worst album of Nas's career. Talks of him falling off began, and they continued as the year 2000 arrived. And how did Nas bounce back from this? That'll be covered when I get to Stillmatic. Yep. Overall, I've always given this album 3.5 stars. And even when I was doing, let me stop right here. Even when I was doing my project at this point, um, a few years back, I was going into this album, I was ready to give it 4 stars to see if time had got, if time had been kind to it, but it really didn't. And even then, some people may feel that 3.5 stars is generous. Well, the first half of this album guarantees that 3.5 stars. I say that. Hell, I would say the first half probably would be guaranteed 4 stars, but let's be a little less biased here. Okay. So continuing on. Overall, I've always given this album 3.5 stars, and I honestly can't go any further than that, even though I wanted to. The album starts off fairly strong, but as mentioned, once you get to shoot 'em up, the momentum stopped. The skits between the songs were no help and ended up being unnecessary. Surprisingly, this is likely the fastest paced album in his discography. Imagine that. But an artist the caliber of Nas is capable of much more, and we'll see that on his 5th album, which brings us to this gem right here. And this was long awaited, especially by me. Release date December 18th, 2001. I bought this when it first came out. And after I read these comments here, I'm gonna go into a story because I got one. I got another one. Okay. 1990, excuse me. 1999 was bittersweet for Nas, to say the least. While I Am was an excellent album that impressed most fans, Nostradamus didn't receive the same love. And although Nas was still on the scene going into the year 2000, the allegations of him falling off continued, and never was this clear when the QB's Finest compilation was released. Now, on my Medium page, I do have a review of that, and I may get to it on the YouTube channel here, but let's continue. You can say that this comp was a showcase for fellow Queensbridge artists, including Nas. While the Bridge 2001 made some noise, the comp overall did little to help Nas' standing in hip hop at the time, and being released in the same month as Jay-Z's The Dynasty Rock La Familia seemed to have made things a little worse. Fans and critics alike began to wonder, was this it for Nas? I'll answer this and more coming up. Okay, now, another story here. So, going back to Kentel, my homie. So, he took me to Circuit City on this day, and I was off work, and man, I was excited. I was excited about this album. So I noticed that another guy named Shaman was at the register, and I'm like, the guy had to have multiple hustles at this point because he worked with me when we was at Pizza Hut. So he had to have, I guess you could say he had 2 jobs and he was fluctuating his schedule or whatever. So then I went up to the register with the CD, the CD in my hand, and Kentel was by my side for some reason. Shaman was like, he was like, yo, you buying that joint? And I was like, yeah, with a big smile. I said, yeah. Then Shaman was like, good luck with that, homie. And Kentel was talking about some, that's what I'm trying to tell him, man. And I'm thinking, okay, you got one guy who probably heard the album and didn't like what he heard. And then you got Kentel who didn't hear the album and probably didn't even want to listen to it, even if the opportunity presented itself. So I was like, okay, so with all that being said, I was looking forward to the album. I wasn't even in the store 2 minutes before I went to the section where the CDs were, grabbed my copy, and it was on. And when I got back home, of course, it's an understatement to say I enjoyed what I heard. So with all that being said, and this story out the way, and I won't have another story probably until we get to maybe the Untitled album, but we'll see. So, all right, so we got Stillmatic album number 5, the featured guests, Mary J. Blige, and I'll talk about her later. The Bravehearts, AZ, A. Marie, and Millennium Thug, and behind the boards, of course, Nas, We got Hangman 3, Ron Browns, some notable names: Precision, Large Pro, Chucky Thompson, Megahertz, Premier, LES, Swiss Beats, Trackmasters, and Salon Remy. So another nice list of producers. All right. So, all right. Now, the highlights. Of course, the Stillmatic intro. And yo, the brother Stillmatic, I crawled up out of my I crawled up out of that grave, wiping the dirt, cleaning my shirt. They thought I'd make another Illmatic, but it's always forward I'm moving, never backward stupid. Here's another classic. Now, I did do a countdown of my top 30 best openers on my Medium page. And if you go there, you'll see, top 30. This one right here was my number one pick. And like I said here, in one fell swoop, Nas metaphorically admits that he's risen from the dead, survived his trials and tribulations, his fair share of them. And although he'll never be able to recreate Illmatic, he's moving forward the best way he can. Nasty Nas was back. Blood of a slave, heart of a king. Definitely a great, memorable way to start this album. And speaking of memorable, that brings us to Ether. Okay, the response to Takeover. So now I got another story. Now I thought I took this part out, but I'm gonna keep going. So now, and I'm gonna break down Ether too. So what I remember was towards the end of the summer of 2001. So at this point, unbeknownst to me, the battle between Nas and Jay-Z was beginning to heat up. So Nas had did the little thing at Summer Jam where he did Takeover for the first time. And I want to say Takeover at that point, nobody knew what that song was. It may have came out like a freestyle, but everybody in attendance, from what I remember hearing, was surprised to see that, to hear that apparently he was going that jail felony. He did the mob, the Prodigy, he did that. And then when he said Axe Nas, he don't want it with Hov, the place went crazy. So that right there, so the battle lines were being joined. And then, of course, after that, Nas dropped the Stillmatic freestyle where he was rapping over the Eric B. and Rakim paid in full instrumental. So going back to Kentel, shout out to my homie. We were on our way to the mall, and the one of the radio stations was playing that freestyle, and we were listening to every single word. And look, man, I still remember it to this day. When Nas said, now, okay, I probably shouldn't quote this on the video, but I'm gonna do it anyway. Hopefully my video don't get demonetized for this, but I'm gonna say it anyway. So when Nas said, is he H to the M-O? No, is he H to the Izzo? M to the Izzo? For Cisco Euphony, the rapping version of Cisco, me and Kentel, our jaws had dropped. I was like, what? Because I knew who that was aimed at, because at this point, Jay-Z's Izzo was heavy on the radio. It was one of the most popular songs at that moment. So we all knew who he was talking about. And I was like, wow, man. So then not too long afterwards, I remember hearing they played Takeover on the radio, if you can believe that. And one of my friends, Mike, at the time, he was a co-worker. He was like, that's it for Nas, man. And that's all everybody kept saying. Everybody kept saying, that's it for Nas. He done. His career is over. Jay-Z is running this. And the only thing that I kept telling people, now at this point, I was in my senior year in high school. So this album does have that nostalgic vibe with me, just like Illmatic does. It was written, I Am, and Nostradamus. So this one has a strong nostalgic vibe because, like I said, I was in my senior year in high school. And every time somebody was downplaying Nas and talking about his career was over, I kept saying, just wait. And speaking of just wait, that brings me to Ether, which was the response to Takeover. And if I said that the Stillmatic freestyle was the response to Takeover, I apologize for that. But Ether was the response to Takeover. So I'm gonna break this down, and I am gonna read my comments verbatim. Okay, so brace yourself for the main event. Y'all been patiently waiting. It's like an AIDS test. What's the result? Not positive. So again, Nas comes out with his lyrical guns blazing, confirming here and later in the song that everyone had been waiting for this battle for a long time, and now we were going to get it. And also, when I do my Jay-Z project, I'm going to break down Takeover in the same format. Okay, so continuing on, how could Nas be garbage? Send me alls at your college, burn it at the side of your dome, come out of my throne. I got this lock since 9-1. I am the truest. Name a rapper that I ain't influenced. Gave y'all chapters, but now I keep my eyes on the Judas. With Hawaiian Sofa fame kept my name in his music. Check it. Now, even though I got these words right here, I still know most of this song by heart, as you can imagine. So, all right. So what I say here is that although he didn't say it a lot on record, you could tell Nas was claiming himself King of New York here. Jay kept his name in his music. Well, in a sense, that's true, taking into consideration the samples on Rap Game, Crap Game, courtesy of Represent, which was on the In My Lifetime Volume 1 album, and then Dead Presidents, The World Is Yours. And Dead Presidents was one of Jay-Z's first singles, but on Reasonable Doubt, there was basically a part two, which was just as good. Speaking of the latter song, the word at one time was Jay had wanted Nas to do a collaboration, likely on a Reasonable Doubt album, but either Nas didn't show up, wasn't interested, or both. Now, can you imagine that? Can you imagine if these guys would have recorded something around that time in '96? You know, Nas on his second album and Jay-Z on his first. Can you imagine that? And also, and I never thought about this until now. Can you imagine Nas probably on Dead Presidents Part 2 and Biggie was on Brooklyn's Finest? I mean, man, just the thought of that, I mean, just gives you audio goosebumps. I mean, imagine such a thing. But let's keep on. He said, I've been fucked over, left for dead, this, that, forgotten, luck ran out. They hope that I be gone stiff and rotten. Already covered in detail. Basically, after being written off by fans and critics alike, as well as the lyrical attacks from Jay, it was only fitting that Nas returned with an aggressive side we never seen before. Now, jumping ahead a little bit, a lot of people did give Jay-Z credit for lighting the fire under Nas. And speaking of lighting the fire under this guy, we're going to get to that much later in the project. But yeah, I shudder to think what Nas's career would be without Takeover. Who knows? But I'm inclined to think that Nas was just so gifted and talented that he still would have emerged from this, even if he would have been damaged. So, did Jay-Z light a fire up under Nas? Yeah, and it probably was a fire that he probably needed at the time. So that's that part. So moving on, then we got When These Streets Keep Calling. Heard it when I was asleep that this Gazy and Cockefeller Records want to be. Started cocking up my weapon, slowly loading up this ammo to explode it on a camel and his soldiers. I can handle this for Dolo, and his manuscript just sounds stupid when KRS already made an album called Blueprint first. Big is your man. Then you got the nerve to say that you better than Big. Won't you let the late great veteran live? And you see what I did there. So the streets did want this beef, if you will. I also recall Nas initially saying he wasn't going to respond to Takeover. However, with everyone buzzing about that song and Nas's career, you cannot let a song like that go unanswered, and that would have been the biggest mistake of his career. Now, I know those are my words, but I'm going to agree exactly with what I said because, yes, when it comes to the likes of Jay-Z, then and probably now, you cannot let an attack such as Takeover go unanswered. You just can't do it. And I'm going to talk about it when I cover Mobb Deep on the channel. I said this then, and I say it now. Now, Prodigy, God rest his soul. Rest in peace, Prodigy. Prodigy, if we would have got 1995 to 1999 Prodigy, he probably would have came at Jay. But after Prodigy's solo album, his first solo album, he had a little lyrical nadir or nadir, for the lack of a better word, where he was not as good as he once was on the mic. Now I guess you can attribute that to his sickle cell, and stuff like that at the time. But I often said, if you're going to come at Jay-Z, you got to come correct or not come at all. So, Prodigy, he did throw a couple of shots at Jay, but nothing memorable. I mean, I remember it, but nothing up in the upper echelons of diss records. He just didn't come at Jay like he could have. Whereas with Nas, it would have been a big mistake if he would have left Takeover unanswered. You know, if and let's face it, had he not responded, we probably wouldn't even be doing this project right now. You know, it probably wouldn't be no, it wouldn't be no hip hop is dead. It probably wouldn't be no second run with Hit Boy, which I'm going to talk about. It probably would have been none of that. And if Nas would have been in the game, he would have been such a shell of his former self that it would have been, people would have been like, okay, is this the same guy that gave us Illmatic and It Was Written and all that stuff? So, like I said, I shudder to think what his career would have been had he not responded, because that part, like I said, it would have been a mistake, the biggest mistake of his career, and definitely one of the most stubborn moves that he could ever make, because the likes of Jay-Z, and keep in mind, at this point in the latter part of 2001, Jay-Z was one of the biggest names in hip hop. He had just dropped The Blueprint. Izzo was on the radio. Girls, Girls, Girls was on the radio. And they were still playing, some of his other stuff. They were still playing Give It To Me, Hard Knock Life, Can I Get Her? I mean, they were still playing all that stuff. So Jay-Z was on top at this point. So to not respond to that, that would have been a big mistake. Hold on for a second. Gotta wipe my glasses here. And give me a sip of tea. Okay, so continuing on, Nas could handle this for Dolo. He didn't need the Bravehearts or anyone else to back him up. That also would have been a big mistake, because that would have been on the level of Ja Rule getting Black Child and Tom Murder to help him against G Unit. So it was a smart move to not include the Bravehearts in, because all the Bravehearts would have done was just bring the quality down. That's all it would have done. It would have lessened the impact, because as you can see, Jay-Z didn't have Beanie Siegel and Memphis Bleak along for the ride. So yeah, he could hold his own for Dolo. And I did disagree with Nas on the KRS-One comment. And like I say here, to be fair, the KRS-One BDP third album was Ghetto Music, the blueprint of hip hop. So then and now, I don't think Jay-Z was biting KRS by naming his album the blueprint, you know. And I said, furthermore, Jay did catch a few people off guard by saying, if I ain't better than Big, I'm the closest one. Remember, Ola Ovito, remember that? So yeah, that did catch some people off guard. All right, so next up, in 88, you was getting chased to your building, calling my crib, and I ain't even give you my numbers. All I did was give you a style for you to run with. All right. So I said that I doubt that Nas and Jay had any contact in the late 80s, but that's neither here nor there. I also think Nas had mentioned at one time that he felt Jay copied his style. When you compare their Illmatic and Reasonable Doubt beginnings, respectively, there were a few similarities, such as clear cut flow, descriptive lyrics, a direct vision, storytelling skills, etc. But I personally never thought Jay copied Nas's flow. Today, they remain two MCs who can never be compared to anyone else. Yep. Is he Dame Diddy, Dame Daddy, or Dame Dummy? Oh, I get it. You're Biggie and he's Puffy. Ew. Rockefeller died at age that was the end of his chapter. And that's the guy y'all chose to name your company after. Put it together. I rock hoes, y'all rock fellas. And now y'all try to take my spot, fellas. Philly's hot rock fellas. Put you in a dry spot, fellas. In a pine box with 9 shots for my Glock, fellas. Foxy got you hot because you kept your face in the puss. What you think you getting girls now because of your looks? Negro, please. You know mustache having whiskers like a rat compared to beans you whack, and your man stab under made you take the blame. You ass went from jazz to cane to herb to big, and that brings to the next one. Eminem merged you on your own shit. Okay, let me stop it right there. Okay, in the interesting turn of events, this line specifically and the song overall is why Ether became a term, not just for lyrically striking back against the rival, but when you get bested on your own song by the guest. People have said this for years about Renegade, and I talked about this in the Jay-Z project for the blueprint. Now, I should have added that out, but it's okay. Um, in short, I'm one of the very few people who disagree with the notion that M murdered Jay on his own song. Yeah, I still do. I still do have that stance. So let me know what you think about that. Even 20 some years later, do you think M murdered Jay on Renegade or no? Let me know what you think. All right. So now here's another issue where I disagree with Nas. He said, how much of Biggie rhymes is gonna come out your fat lips now? Name calling aside, Nas took issue with Jay quoting Big's lines in some of his most popular hits. Again, to be fair, Jay would later say, I say a big verse, I'm only bigging up my brother. And that's true. I never saw Jay-Z doing anything else as big and big up. I never looked at that as biting or stealing or anything like that. That's exactly what he was doing. So in the end, I say that Takeover lit a fire under Nas that previously wasn't there, and what resulted was one of the best diss songs in hip hop history. I shudder to think what Nas's career would be had he not responded to Takeover. And I would say it would definitely be different. I'll say that. All right. So next up, we got the song that graced the radio for a little bit, but not too much. And that would be another 5 out of 5 classic. Got Yourself a Gun. My first album had no famous guest appearances. The outcome, I'm crowned the best lyricist. Many years on this professional level. Why would you question who's better? The world is still mine. Tattoos filled with God's son across the belly with thoughts like that. You saw me in belly with thoughts like that. To take it back to Africa, I did it with Biggie. Me and Tupac were soldiers of the same struggle. Your lame shahada, your team shook. Y'all feel the wrath of a killer because this is my football field. Throwing passes from a barrel, show the pass apparel, but the QB don't stand for no quarterback. Everywhere is like a sawed off blast because y'all all soft and I'm the black horse that came to haul y'all ass in. Yes, sir. I got mine. I hope you got you. You from the hood. I hope you want beef. Hope you. And when I see you, I'm gonna take what I want. So you try to front. Hope you ain't real. Hope y'all singing along with me. So that's why I kept it silent. I mean, like I said here, I remember this classic receiving a decent amount of radio at the time, radio play at the time, but it didn't last long either way. This was the perfect first single for the album. After Ether, this proved he was back with a vengeance. This is NASDAQ dough in my NASCAR with this Nas flow. What could beat that? Not a soul repping. Hit the record store. Never let me go. Get my whole collection. It's the return of the Prince, the boss. This is real hardcore. Kid Rockin' Limp Biscuit soft. Word up, Nas. Speaking of 5 out of 5, that brings us to the next one. You're the Man, produced by Large Pro. He had came a long way since 91, and this track is a reflection of that, confident and thankful at the same time. He said, they plan was to knock me at the top of the game, but I overstand they truth is all lame. I hold cannons that shoot balls of flame right in a fat mouth, then I carve my name. Nas, too real. I never asked to be top of raps lead just to get a child trying to learn the traps of the streets. But look at me now. You're the man. Great. Love that song. Next up, Rewind. Creative and innovative, Nas was and still is the first MC to tell a story backwards. Not trying to overhype it, but the skills are incredible. Must be heard to be appreciated. I bet Nas hasn't attempted this again due to not being able to top it, and he likely won't attempt this again. And he probably won't because, like I said, that must be heard to be appreciated. To tell a story backwards, I mean, man, not everybody can do such a thing, So that's definitely that would be a 5 out of 5 by itself, no matter what the story was. But he did it, and it was great stuff. Speaking of great stuff, we go to the next 5 out of 5 classic. Now, this one, okay, I got to tell a story here. I probably should have added this out too, but it's okay. Now, going back to Pizza Hut where I worked at the time. Now, I remember talking about this song and the album to a guy named Devon. Devon, this dude was tall. I guarantee you with the Timberlands that guy wore, he probably wore a size 13 or 14. That was a tall dude, man. I mean, probably 6'4" or something like that. He was a tall dude. But we was talking about this, and I remember him saying that he sounded like he was trying too hard. Now, I didn't agree with that then, and I don't agree with it now. I mean, was it different at the time? Yes, it was. But he wasn't trying too hard. And going to my comments, all Nas needs is one mic, nothing else, and that sums up this song in a complete nutshell. What makes this song so notable is during the first two verses, he's relatively calm in the beginning and middle. Then towards the end, with every bit of energy he has, he goes in until the hook, at which point he calms down. The third verse, he does it all again, but in reverse. It's incredibly effective because, much like Ether, we have never seen this side of the Nas. Yep, it was new and it was fresh, and he wasn't trying too hard, not in my opinion. Again, great stuff. Next up, another 5 out of 5 highlight, Second Childhood. Now, let me talk about the song first, and I'm going to talk about something else. Now, this would be the last time that Nas worked with Primo until 2012, and yeah, I got a little something to say about that, but I'm gonna save that at the end. Um, I said that as for the song itself, I can relate. I personally know what it's like to experience a second childhood, and again, Nas paints this picture so well. But I wanted to talk about the sampling. Okay, now the hook is when I flow for the street. Who else could it be? Nas, Nas. Okay, now it took me a while to realize this, and like I said, I think Large Professor might have predated Primo with this, but you notice that the Nas part. Okay, let me say this. Okay, Biz Markie, rest in peace to Biz Markie. Remember the classic "Nobody Beats the Biz." Now there is a part in the second verse when he says, "Recognize it's the king of disco." Now the recognize part is focusing on that Nize, which is what I'm highlighting here. It's interesting how Large Professor and Primo turned that into Nas. You see what I'm saying? And it's like that's some real creative sampling because while it's saying recognize, you can listen to it and it makes you think that it's Nas. So like I said, I think Large Professor predated Primo with the It Ain't Hard to Tell remix, but either way, that's some real creative sampling to do that. And really you don't see sampling like that no more. So it's all good. But yeah, great song. And then we go into another 5 out of 5 highlight, The Flyers featuring AZ. Um, to this day, and even as I sit here now, I have no idea who the woman was on the hook, but she did a good job and she wasn't credited on the album insert. But the strong chemistry between Nas and AZ continued, and the track was a smooth one. We both hard hit, just like Camacho and Vargas, who's the target. Now watch how we close the market. Great stuff. Speaking of great stuff, it continues with another 5 out of 5 classic. This time with A. Marie calling for world peace on Rule. That would be a nice lead into the next song too. And then of course, Nas come by with some gems here. Why then? Why then must it go on? We must stop the killings. Tell me why we die. We all God's children. There shouldn't be nobody homeless. How can the president fix other problems when he ain't fixed home yet? In hip hop, the weapons are lyrical. To be the best, you challenge the best, and the blessings are spiritual. Amen, brother. And then speaking of the lead in, we go to My Country, American born, American raised, American made. This wouldn't be the first or last time that Nas talks about our country and its issues. Simply put, instead of viewing it as a positive development, our country has vilified and demonized men of color for seeing and knowing too much. And in my view, you can never feed your brain too much. He also notes two legendary men in Malcolm X and Martin Luther King Jr., both of whom were fighting for peace in the 1960s, but in the end were assassinated, destroyed by their own country. Yep, 5 out of 5. Next up, what goes around comes around, and what goes up must come down. That's the theme of this one. And again, it finds Nas dropping some factual knowledge, 5 out of 5. The next 5 out of 5 song, which was the first of 3 Circuit City bonus tracks. Every ghetto like this song. My skin is an art gallery, right? With paintings and crucifixes hoping to save me from all the dangers in the music business. And the next lines, I got them here. Could you believe even my shadow's jealous? My skin is mad at my flesh hates my own bones, my brain hates my heart makes the songs that my songs come from the Father. I'm lonely. Homie, it's getting darker. You know, Even someone like Nas has his trials and tribulations. He may not go deeply into that here, but what he does provide is captivating and it works. Yes, indeed. 5 out of 5. Okay, so the one low point on this album, and pardon that, that's a miscalculation with the edit, but okay. Braveheart Party. For starters, as mentioned, I bought this on the day of its release, so my copy had this one. Simply put, this is the worst song on the album, probably the second worst song Nas has been a part of. Then again, what's worse, this or Uchiwale? Remember Uchiwale? I still laugh when I hear Nas use the term bubbles to describe a woman's backside. It didn't take off like he probably hoped. It also goes without saying that the Bravehearts added nothing to this song, and it was not one of Swiss Beats' best moments behind the boards. And on top of all that, Miss Mary J. Blige was not impressed as this song was removed from future presses of the album at her request. And can you blame her? Yeah, the less said about this song, the better. Braveheart Party should not have made this album. Should have been on the cutting room floor, and you could have used Mary J. Blige on another song, just not this one. But even then, it doesn't distract from my rating of the album, which I get to this point now. Uh, and also, the Source magazine they gave this 5 mics too, just like they gave Jay Z's Blueprint 5 mics. Um, and the article is online, but again, it's not the full article because it continues on the next page. And why they don't have both pages of the article, I don't know, but I digress. So, well, what can I say? This album holds up today and sounds just as good now as it did in 2001. Nas made a strong return and proved he still had it. This album received a lot of deserved praise at the time, and all the fans, critics, and naysayers had to sit up and take notice. The man's career was not dead, but re energized. I continue to refer to this as Illmatic 2001. It was and still is my pick for best album of 2001. His best since Illmatic. Job well done. 5 stars. Yep. Still my pick for best album of 2001. And number 2 goes to Jay-Z's Blueprint, and you shouldn't be surprised at that one. All right. So the success, the album debuted at number 8 on the Billboard 200 chart. First week sales of 342,600 copies. Eventually, it went double platinum, moving 2,026,000 units. Impressive. Speaking of impressive, that takes us to the compilation, the first volume of the Lost Tapes, which was released on September 23rd, 2002. And this one I bought from Circuit City. I also bought this in 2003, the same day when I bought those copies of Illmatic and It Was Written that I mentioned earlier in this post. Yep. So I'm going to read this verbatim. The following words, courtesy of the Village Voice, which were included in the album insert, defines this album quite well, and I use them as the intro. The Lost Tapes is already a pre-classic release comprised of tracks made during especially prolific recording sessions for the classic albums I Am and Stillmatic. These songs are famous for never having been officially released. Man, there's some word salad here. Mainly heard on select underground mixtapes, fans have tried to collect these songs one by one for their own Nas anthologies. In appreciation of the immense love and interest shown by the fans, Nas, Ill Will, and Columbia Records meet the incredible street demand by releasing the Lost Tapes, now available for the first time ever on a mastered, completed songs as Nas had intended. Easily one of the most important writers of the century. Amen. So behind the boards, we got Precision, Alchemist, LES, Trackmasters, Rock Wilder, Hill, Al West, and Derek Angeletti. A few underrated names in there. All right, so I just go through some of these real quickly. Do Rags, 4 out of 5. That was a highlight. And as I mentioned, Nas always did a great job when it came to creating songs, reliving the days of the past, and he does that here. He brought back the Do Rags too. Nothing Lasts Forever. This was notable because of the beginning, in which I keyed it here. It's a 5 out of 5 song. He said, a lot of time it seems like you ain't gonna make it where you want to be in life, but If you got a plan, believe me, you're gonna get there. You're gonna get everything you ever wanted, baby. That's my word. That opening is a true motivator for me, and it should be for everyone else who envisions a bright future for themselves. And then the hook says it all too. Everything will eventually come to an end. So try to savor the moment because time flies, don't it? The beauty of your life. You got to make it last for the better because nothing lasts forever, you know? True. 5 out of 5. Then we go to No Ideas Original, 4 out of 5. I consider this a remix of the version that appears on Stillmatic. It features the same lyrics plus a nicely utilized sample courtesy of Barry White's I'm Gonna Love You Just a Little Bit More, Baby. Rest in peace, Barry White. We coincide, we in the same life, maybe a time difference on a different coast, but we share the same sunlight. Genesis is deep. My features are that of a god. It's not a facade. In fact, these rappers want to be Nas. My exodus doesn't exist. I never leave the streets. It's all in my mind. Even with sleep, I'm ducking Nas in my dreams. The wordplay of this guy is unbelievable. Blazer 50, 4 out of 5 highlight. This gem blazed several mixtapes in 1999, and it was one of the songs that were cut from the I Am album. It would have been out of place on Nostradamus. Revisiting this today, it almost serves as a prequel to Undenied Dope, Undenied Love, still dope. Then we move on to another highlight, Purple. Too much of anything will hurt you, so my state of mind is all purple. This song is pretty brilliant, one you must take your time with when you listen to it. It's also a song that makes you draw your own conclusions in terms of its meaning when it's over. 5 out of 5. And speaking of 5 out of 5, that's the case with Drunk by Myself. This is the second song on the album that was cut from I Am, and it's another brilliant one. Nas paints an exquisite picture of being drunk on his own and everything that's going through his mind in the process with a logical conclusion. Another one that must be heard to be appreciated. Now I'm gonna skip over Black Zombie just a little bit. I'll say this: it's a good song. It's 4 out of 5, but this is one that you have to listen to because it's much more relevant in present day 2024 than it was in 2002. So definitely check that one out. Then of course, the highlights continue. 5 out of 5 for Papa Was a Player. Song number 3 that didn't make I Am. From birth to the present time, Nas showed mad love and respect to his father for all the knowledge and wisdom he inherited. And to close, there's Feed His Belly Button Window. Excuse me. This also didn't make I Am. And man, does it seem like a lot of great material was cut from that album or what? Yes, we can thank the bootleggers for that. I also recall there being a second version of this song, which is another brilliant one. Nas crafts this one so good that he leads you to believe he had a vision while still in the womb. Also, listen closely to the water bubbling sounds in the background while Nas is rapping. A remarkable journey indeed. 5 out of 5. And then you get a couple other songs that were cut from I Am, which really now I think they could have, they didn't have to include Daydreaming, Stay Scheming, but the hardest thing to do is stay alive. And sometimes I wonder they should have been included on here, I think. So overall, you certainly can't go wrong with this excellent collection of songs. In addition, Nas had also announced a sequel to Lost Tapes in 2010, but that hasn't come to fruition. Hopefully, it still will one day. And as I include here, the Lost Tapes 2 finally saw the light of day on July 19th, 2019. And I'm gonna get to that. And I may have to bring out my booklet for that one, but we'll see. It's unfortunate that the I Am album was plagued with heavy bootlegging, but the bright side is that these songs were unlocked and let out the vault to see the light of day, even with the 3 omissions above. Awesome album. 5 stars, moving 340,000 units in the US as of July 2008. Great stuff. All right. So we're continuing on here. We continue on with Godson, released on December 13th, 2002. And I bought that 2 weeks after it came out, and I bought it from FYE. Yep. Prior to this release in 2002, Nas' career was on a definite upswing, especially after the release of the classic Stillmatic in 2001. Excuse me. In addition to the From Illmatic to Stillmatic, the remixes EP, he also released the excellent Lost Tapes in 2002. As you can see, musically, he was doing just fine. Personally, things were challenging for him, and I'm certain going to cover that in this album, which I bought 2 weeks after its release. So the featured guests we have here, we have, of course, the Bravehearts, Claudia Ortiz from City High, Kelly's eponymous vocal from Tupac, Jay Phoenix, Alicia Keys, Lake, Julie Black. And then behind the boards, we got Nas, Salam Remy, Eminem, Ron Browns, Alchemist, Michael Heron, and even Alicia Keys was behind the boards. And of course, you got Chucky Thompson, Socrates, just to name a few names. Excuse me. Let me take a sip of this tea right quick. Give me a second. All right. So, all right, we get to the highlights here. Get Down, the album's opener. Southern niggas, independent label, real killers know the business, ran Tennessee for years, now they chilling. They had the coke game, something crazy. Soul music out the trunk of their car. That shit amazed me. Oh, yeah. Yep. Like this joint. New York streets with killers walk like Pete and Pappy Mason. Had a young boy's admiration. Moving cars, Nicky Barnes was the 70s, but there's a long list of high-profile celebrities. You know, I like this opener. James Brown, rest in peace to him. Funky Drummer and the Boss are just two of the four classics sampled nicely for this dope opener. It does make you get down, no question. 4 out of 5. I may have to up that rating, but for right now, it's gonna stand at 4 out of 5. All right. Made You Look, classic. Now, my cousin Andre, he loved this joint. I felt this was a banger when I first heard it, and I still do today. Some may say this was the last true banger from Nas, but I respectively disagree. Either way, this remains dope. You know. Now let's get it all in perspective for all y'all enjoyment, a song y'all can step with. Y'all pointed me to bring rap justice, but I ain't 5-0. Y'all know it's Nas. Great Goose with a whole lot of hydro. Only describe us as soldiers, survivors. Man. They shooting. Made you look. You a slave to a page in my rhyme book. I see niggas running. Yo, my mood is real rude. I lay you out, show you what still do. And what's the next part? He said, when you drive through my city, no doubt, don't say the car's topless. Say the tears is out. Newness is the anthem. Get your hands up that you shoot with, count your loot with. Swing around like you're stupid. King of the town. Yeah, I've been there. You know I click clack where you and your man's at. Do the smurf, do the wop, baseball bat. Rooftop like we bringing 88 back. Dope stuff. Dope stuff. All right, then we go to another highlight. Last real nigga alive. Y'all know about my Biggie wars. Who you thought kicking the door was for, but that's my heart. Y'all still tripping off a jigger shit. Real niggas, listen up and let me tell you how the whole thing started. Yep. And like my comments say here, honestly, when I first heard this line, I had no idea that Biggie Classic was aimed at Nas. So to hear him confirm it blew my mind at the time. My reaction would have been totally different had I known this in 97. I also feel this song closes the book on his beef/feud with Jay-Z. It isn't completely over yet, though, as we'll see later down the line. Yep. So 4 out of 5 for this one. I'll just skip over this one a little bit. I do remember doing a project when I was attending Richard Bland College back in 2003. I did a project with this song, and it turned out pretty well because I had the lyrics and everything, you know. So that was a good moment. This is quite a motivational song for little boys and girls everywhere, and it was fitting to have that type of presence on the hook with Nas. And if there ever was a time when a song like this should be heard by the next generation, is this one applicable more towards today than 2002? You can be whatever you want to be if you work hard at it. Yes, indeed, save the music. And I said I was going to skip over that, but I had to read it. Yeah, and the next several songs are 5 out of 5 highlights. Book of Rhymes, a highly creative song. While the rhymes he delivered were done on the spot, complete with the trashing of some afterwards, it can be argued that it was planned that way, but I have no problem giving him the benefit of the doubt, although I never doubted him on this song. Yep. Mastermind. Look up the word mastermind and you should see a pic of Nas. He lyrically shows he can be one calculating, strategic MC. Definitely my favorite song on this album. Then we got Warrior Song, When Faced with Adversity. Nas didn't give up, so that right there makes him a warrior. Alicia Keys, who also produced this, was not out of place and contributed well to the song. And then last, that brings us to Dance. Now, initially, when I did this project a few years ago, I was tearing up. So that wasn't hyperbole. I was tearing up listening to it. Nas's mother, Ann Jones, passed away on April 2nd, 2002 from cancer. And this was Nas's emotional tribute to her. Jungle, Nas's brother, and one third of the Bravehearts, has often said that he'll never be able to listen to this song in its entirety. And can you blame him? And I also came back, I said, in present day 2024, I wonder if Jungle has finally listened to this song yet. And I wouldn't be surprised if he hasn't, because it's a real emotional thing. That mother passed. You know, I really expect him to break down in a major way if/when he finally does listen to it. The horns provided by Alu Dara close this song in a beautiful way. Best song on the album, 5 out of 5. And then for those who bought the original pressing like me, it came with a bonus disc that had 3 songs. I'll just focus on this one, The God, because the other 2 songs, one was a freestyle, and then the other one was Blank Word Kills. I'll let you, okay, you know the part of a woman's body, insert that there, and you have the name of that song. So moving right along, The God, the GODSONKINGOFNYC, that's me, and it did come off as a freestyle, but it was still pretty good. And the song was notable just for that. It was notable for the hook and for the beat, and it was also notable because there was some rumors swirling around this time that he was going to sign with Murder Inc. And thankfully, he put that to rest because Nas was too big for Murder Inc. He was too good for Murder Inc. And again, that would have been a mistake. Because where's Ja Rule and them cats now? I rest my case. So we come to another point where there are 2 low points on the Nas album. So let's look at it, shall we? Zone out. I almost nodded out while Bravehearts were on the mic. Seriously, those guys brought nothing to the table, and this song was another prime example of that. My score is basically for Nas's verse alone. I think I gave it like a 1.5 out of 5 or a 2 out of 5 or something. But yeah, that song could have been left on the cutting room floor. And speaking of being left on the cutting room floor, that's the next one. Hey Nas, this was a somewhat smooth joint for the ladies, but not as good as it could have been, I think. Nas and Khalees would connect in more ways than one after this. Yeah, so yeah, those two, take those 2 songs off the album, God's Son will probably be 5 stars. No question about it. So moving on, I say, okay, well, I won't even have to read this part because I can mention this part, but just sum it up. So 4.5 stars for this album. And excuse the typo there. It moved 156,000 units in its first week, becoming certified platinum as of January 14, 2003. Now, I always call this album emotional brilliance because that's what it is, and it remains his most emotional album, the most emotional album in his discography. And plus, check this here. This is the first and only album of Nas that I did not care too much for when I first played it. When I first played it, I was not happy with it at all. But then I had some time on my hands going into the early part of 2003. I was like, you know what? I'm going to revisit this. And lo and behold, this was one of those albums where when you listen to it the second time, it gets you, it hooks you. And that's exactly what this one did. I was not impressed first, but on that second listen, I was like, man, what was I missing? And it's really that good. Definitely one of the best albums of 2002. And yes, and they were released in the same year. I would definitely put this miles above Jay-Z's Blueprint 2, The Gift and the Curse. All right. And before I get to the Streets Disciple album, I have the March 2003 issue of Double XL in my hand with Eminem, Dr. Dre, and 50 Cent on the front. Now, I did have an issue of The Source with Ja Rule on the front from February 2003, and they did a review of the Godson album in that issue, and I think they gave it 4 mics. But I no longer have that source issue, and I was looking online for the article, but I didn't find it. But looking at this one, so let's see, Double XL, they gave the album an XL. And the article was not that long. So let's see what they say. They say the LP is deeply saturated in nostalgic tracks from the funk-filled James Brown samples of Get Down to the Honey Drippers borrowed stone hard drum patterns of I Can, all given a breath of fresh air by producer Salam Remy, who conducts the bulk of God's Son Back to Basics break beats. Let's see. Let's see. Talking about Last Real Nigga Alive over Ron Brown's production, Nas details his scathing breakdown of the New York crime wars of the 90s. Last is a worthy blueprint of what led to the battle with crosstown counterpart Jay-Z, including candid quotes from one-time, sometime rivals, the Notorious Big and Wu-Tang's Raekwon. And they basically said the same thing about Zone Out, going towards the end. Yeah, let me read this one. Though Nas has quite efficiently assembled a collection of powerful tracks, not counting the Bravehearts feature Zone Out that stayed true to himself, the majority of beats seem to seep deep into his sense of sorrow. It's an emotional album. Nas's mother's passing affects his musical voice to the point where Dance, a heartfelt ode to moms, is damaged slightly by a weak chorus and forced whispered vocals. Now, I disagree with that. I didn't have an issue with the chorus or whatever. I didn't then, and I don't now. But this album isn't about pleasing us. It's about God's Son bearing His soul, which is perfect imperfections. By is that Daytwan Thomas? Yeah. So that was that. So that's the last magazine article I'm going to have regarding Nas reviews. All right. So continuing on. Next up, we get in my case the long-awaited double album from Nas, Streets Disciple, released on November 30th, 2004. And I bought this one the first day it came out on from Circuit City. And 1 week later, on December 7th, 2004, Ludacris dropped the Red Light District. Just a little historic tidbit there. All right. So after releasing 2 excellent albums in 2002, as well as the 10th anniversary platinum edition of Illmatic in 2003, which I have, as I mentioned, it was time for Nas's next studio album, Streets Disciple. Anticipation for me was automatic, not only because it was Nas, but he was finally releasing a double album, something I've been waiting for as far back as 1999. Starting with this album and the Illmatic 10th anniversary, I bought all future Nas albums on the day they were released. So continuing on, the featured guests, we got Alou Dara, Kelly's, Amy Marie, Quan, Emily, Busta Rhymes, Ludacris, Dougie Fresh, Maxwell, Keon Bryce. Behind the boards, the notable names here, of course, Nas, Chucky Thompson, Q-Tip, LES, Buckwild, and Salam Remy. All right. So this one highlights American Way. Let's see. 4 out of 5 for this one. A sample courtesy of George Clinton's classic Atomic Dog wasn't out of place in 2004. Kelly's assists Nas on this excellent song, calling out everyone from the Bush administration in the White House at the time to those who criticized hip-hop, but on the flip side, endorsed the Rock the Vote campaign. I understood Nas's points at the time that some people were in a hurry to support individuals who went against everything that hip-hop stood for, in addition to all the other issues facing our country at the time. The American way, indeed. Then the next highlight, these are our heroes. I'll tell you one thing. When Nas calls someone out, it's notable. The theme of this song questions how we view celebrities. Some may call them heroes, as he alludes to here. 2 names that were on the receiving end of Nas's lyrical wrath were Kobe Bryant, rest in peace to him, infidelity and bad-mouthing former Lakers teammate Shaquille O'Neal, and apparently P. Diddy, lack of passion for the music and other things. Also, it was said that the original title was going to be Coon's Picnic, which is a little controversial, obviously. In short, watch who you call a hero. Next highlight, we got a 5 out of 5 one Disciple. This ain't 50. This ain't Jigga. This ain't Diddy. This ain't pretty. Paid, power, pussy, and pistols. Lyrically, no one hold nothing near me. Yeah, he was going in on this joint, fast paced banger. And, like I said, he goes in, possibly the best song on the first disc from a lyrical level. Um, yeah, good song. Rest of My Life, Nas and A. Marie had very good chemistry, and it shows here, much like Rule from Stillmatic. Nice song. Next one, probably a little memorable one here, Just a Moment. Um, from those whose lives were lost to those struggling with life situations, Nas and Quan asked for a moment for everyone on this excellent song, arguably the best song on this one, 5 out of 5. Then we go to the next highlight, You Know My Style. I'm still not sure why this was listed as a bonus track, and we'll see this again on this too. Be that as it may, I believe this was the second single released from the album. Salam Remy's update of Run DMC's classic Jam Master Jay works perfectly with Nas riding the beat nicely. 4 out of 5. So we get to another low point on a Nas album. So this one is Secco's Story. Now, let me read this one right here, like I've been doing. Had this song stopped at the minute and 10-second mark, it would have been so much better. Instead, we get a verse from Scarlett, a word on Scarlett, if I may. Have you ever noticed in the album insert that her real name is not credited? Have you ever noticed that after this album, we never heard from her again? Well, I can tell you why. Although it's never been confirmed, even as of this post, when you listen closely, you can tell that Nas digitally altered his voice in one of the most pointless things he's ever done. It seems like he did alter his voice. It interrupts what started out as a cool track with a throwback vibe, and I should have left the rating off, but okay. All right, so now we move to the disc 2 highlights. So we got the Streets Disciple. I love this one. Nas again rides another Salam Remy track nicely. Speaking of nice, we got the first of 3 appearances by Nas's father, Alu Dara. It almost seems like Mr. Dara is confirming Nas's vision, like he knew Nas had this in him from the start. I mean, I love this song. From the day you born, you had the gleam in your eye. I mean, I love this joint. And speaking of loving this joint, that brings us to Virgo. Yes, Nas is a Virgo, Ludacris is a Virgo, Dougie Fresh is a Virgo. They represented well in this song with this highly entertaining throwback vibe, complete with the beatbox. Good song. And like I said earlier, Luda's Red Light District came out after this, after Nas's album, and the Virgo song was on there too. And now when I think about it, a video to that song would have been cool too, I think. So we got that part. Then continuing on, we got Getting Married, Say Hello to the Man, Goodbye to the Gigolo. Look at the well thought out sequence in here. Starting with reliving back to back, starting with reliving back in the day activities on Remember the Times, the middle portion of The Makers of a Perfect Bitch, and this song being the conclusion. I also like how he talked about picturing his eventual wedding in a nice touch. He makes it clear at the end that he's not talking about hip hop. 4 out of 5 song. Okay. Highlight here, Bridging the Gap. I love this one when I first heard it, and I still feel the same way today. This had to have been hip hop's first ever father and son collaboration, and it delivered in spades. I remember when they performed this one on the VH1 Hip Hop Honors Show in 2004, and it was one of the best performances I had seen in years. And I gotta look that up. I guarantee you that's on YouTube. It got to be. But yeah, I remember that. That was a good moment, and the song is dope too, The next up we have War, which is 4 out of 5. Nas talks about the issues and frustrations facing him prior to and after the birth of his daughter Destiny. Then we go on the Thief's theme. I remember when I first heard this one, I went crazy, just like I said right here. Nas brings it on this dope track, so dope that he had to sample it a second time, which will be covered on the next album. This 5 out of 5 track was also listed as a bonus, So we have more low points, low points on this too. So that brings us to Suicide Bounce. This Busta Rhymes feature song was all over the place and not a good way to start the second disc. Let's see. Suicide Bounce, are they suggesting we bounce to the beat until we figuratively die? You tell me. Or maybe I'm overanalyzing it a little bit too much, but okay. No one else in the room. This song is not bad at all, but after the previous three songs, and I'm talking about that three stretch, that three stretch. Let me go back to it. Remember the times, the makers of a perfect bitch, and getting married. So that's what I was referring to. But it certainly was an unnecessary addition to the album. Yeah, it was. So my thoughts, man, what is with the typo here? Okay, excuse me, y'all. See that's what happens when you're trying to update stuff. Sometimes you don't catch it until you're in the mix, but it's all good. This is an excellent album, something I've said since its release as a double album. Even I'll admit that a couple of songs could have either been shortened or not included at all, but other than that, everything else makes this a quality effort from Nas. Considering hip hop's ever changing climate, which will be covered on the next album, this album almost made no noise at the time, which is/was sad, as it was one of 2004's best album. Overall, does it justify its length? Yes, indeed. 4 stars for this one. It debuted at number 5 on the Billboard 200 chart, moving 232,000 units in its first week en route to a platinum certification. Next up, we have this one. Hip Hop is Dead. Yes, I bought this one the day it came out, along with Jay-Z's Kingdom Come album. Yep, I remember that. This was from Best Buy. After the somewhat lukewarm response to Street's Disciple, Nas took a year off before returning with another highly anticipated album in the form of Hip Hop is Dead. Before we get to that, I want to touch on a few things. In addition to Marion Khalees in 2005, that same year, another monumental event took place. And what was that? This right here. Now, I don't have to read all this, and I'll just pick up when I start talking about the album title. But when I saw this, this was when I first heard about it. Now, even though I was online at this moment in 2005 going into 2006, when this happened, I didn't know about it. And later I would buy the magazine. Now, this is not my cover. I had to get this online. I had the issue, but I'm not sure what happened to it. But when I saw that and I heard that they reconciled, I was like, man, it was good for hip hop. And of course, the first thing that came out of my mouth is, when is the collaboration going to start? Or should I say, when is the collaboration going to take place? Because I have been looking forward to that for quite some time. And trust me, I'm going to have something to say about that when I get into the album. And speaking of the album, that brings us to, the album title itself. It was controversial to some. So biased or not, I always agree with Nas's stance on hip hop at the time. Based on the music controlling airwaves in 2006 going into 2007, hip hop was seemingly figuratively dead and heading towards a steep decline, not to mention the dreaded ringtone era. Now, this was at a time where, take your pick, you had, well, I don't want to call out certain things, but you had Lean with it, Rock with it, stuff like that. You had Party Like a Rock Star. What else did you have? Now the Lean with it, Rock with it, that dance was cool, but the song, I could have done without that. Then you had Laffy Taffy by D4L. I mean, it was a lot of whack stuff coming out. So I could see where that came from. So continuing on, if Nas's intent was to get people talking, it worked, solely not to spike his album sales, but to make fans and critics aware of the state of hip hop. Some artists took this personal, namely Southern artists, which didn't surprise me one bit. As far back as 2004, the South became the dominant region in hip hop, and whether anyone wants to admit it or not, that region has produced some of the most god-awful, ridiculous, nonsensical music in hip hop's long story history. Well, I'm gonna tell you something now. The stuff that's been coming out the last 5 years or so, that makes the stuff that came out around this time sound like the second coming of, the glory days of the 80s and 90s and even the early 2000s. But that don't surprise me either. So as of this post, The South still maintains that dominance seemingly with no end in sight. Now, I did go back and add this. It's safe to say that women are dominating the hip hop scene right now. That's what it's looking like. So it ain't even about territories no more, you know. So at this point, if somebody was to come with no, the East on top, no, the West on top, no, the South on top, it really doesn't matter at this point, which is a drastic change because that was a legit talking point back in the day. So, okay. So, hip hop is dead was Nas's supreme statement to show that the very heart and soul of hip hop was here to stay. And that would seem a little contradictory due to the album title. As a side note, like I said, I also bought this on the first day it came out, along with Jay's Kingdom Come. So, with that being said, allow me to step away for a bit. I'll be right back, y'all. Mic check 1 2 1 2. What it do? Okay, I'm back. All right, so continuing on with 2006's Hip Hop is Dead. So on this album, the featured guests, we got Will I Am from the Black Eyed Peas, we got Jay-Z, Khalees, Kanye West, Chrisette Michelle, Trey Williams, Snoop Dogg, The Game, Marsha Ambrosius. Okay, so and behind the boards, we got a good little lineup here: Kanye, Mark Batson, Chris Webber, Dre, Will I Am, Salam Remy, Scott Storch, LES, and of course Nas. So we went into it. So now the highlights. So we got to open up money over bullshit. Afraid not of none of you cowards, but of my own strength. Although a topic like this had already been covered to death in hip hop, Nas puts a different touch on it as only he can. And while the first verse was good, he simply goes in on the second and third verses, coming off more inspired than he had in quite some time. Dope opener, 5 out of 5. And speaking of that second verse, man, I gotta quote that one because I know it by heart and I love it. Okay, he says, I got 7 candles lit, black wallpaper, black carpet. Thinking about which nigga to target. You kill a nigga today, he lives forever. So I apply it out smarter. There'll be no martyrs. Black tick, black. Oh my God. Black tech on the no. Black tech on the table. Black 4-4. Black niggas jail my bitch. She's at the door. Black fish ass nigga. That's the caviar. Y'all niggas bitch man. Y'all niggas is fifth grade niggas. 50 ways to dissect the general. If you give me the top 5, I would not survive. Rule 1, cocksucker, keep my name on your tongue. Rule number 3, hold on. I gotta start this one. No, y'all, pardon me. I gotta start this one over because I love that verse. Let me see. He said, got 7 candles lit, black wallpaper, black carpet. Think about which nigga to target. You kill a nigga today, he lives forever. So I apply it out smarter. There'll be no martyrs. Black tech on the table, black 4-4, black negligee on my bitch. She's at the door. Black fish ass niggas. That's the caviar. Y'all niggas bitch made. Y'all niggas is fifth grade niggas. It's 50 ways to dissect the general. If I give you the top 5, you will not survive. Rule 1, cocksucker, keep my name from your tongue. Rule 2, don't you knew, don't fuck with God's son. Rule 3, see, matter of fact, I just wait. If y'all reach top 5, then I'ma eat y'all alive. Each nigga alive claiming hip hop is still alive. Like y'all ain't even agree with what Nas. I said it's dead, motherfucker. It's dead, bitch. I mean, he killed that joint. I mean, I had to back up and say it again because I love that verse. I mean, he went in. It's like he was easy doing that first verse, but the second verse, like I said, the second verse and the third verse, he went in. And speaking of which, he does the same thing on the next one. You can't kill me. I mean, like I said here, it's 5 out of 5. And like I said, he's aggressive and gangster all at the same time. And again, I don't know what it was when it came to the second verse, but on this, he kills it again. Now, these lines up top, let me see. They come from the first and the second verse. Now, the first one, he says, it was just cool, like smooth night with my Jews bright. Goons left, goons right, cool with blue lights. Bad girls and black girls gave us all cat calls, took them back to the crib to break their ass off. Said, the son of a Capricorn, my dad's a Dom. What you think that he spawned a slacker? Nah. Pack the nines. Yo, this nigga's asinine. Smack your mom. Relax the calm, then mac your mom. I mean, he was going in. Man. Mm-mm-mm. So, like I said, 5 out of 5 for that highlight. Then we go to another highlight. Carry on tradition. Nas promises to carry on tradition in the face of all opposers, and I understand why. I really like this song, especially with another notable second verse. He not only confirms the lukewarm reception to Street's Disciples still came 5 on the charts with 0 audience, he also angrily calls out emerging artists at the time, telling veteran MCs to step aside while at the same time dropping whack shit. In my Nas voice, what? If more MCs did this today, I bet we would see a change in quality. 5 out of 5. Okay. Where are they now? Another highlight. 5 out of 5. Excuse me, 4 out of 5. Nas name drops a good number of artists who were relevant in hip hop at one time, asking an all too familiar question: where are they now? 4 out of 5. Now, initially, when I did this on my blog a few years back, all of the names that he mentioned, not only did I name drop them myself, but I also took the time out to exactly say what they were doing at the time that I made the post. Now, that took some time to do. I think roughly just getting the names that he mentioned and typing it all out, I think that took at least 45 minutes to an hour, maybe somewhere along that way, but it took a while, and I was not going to do that this time, all things considered. So that's that. Then we moved to Hip Hop is Dead, the title track. Everybody sound the same, commercialized the game, reminiscing when it wasn't all business. That's true. Now, he said that he felt the Thief's theme beat was so dope, he had to flip it again. And that was courtesy of Apache by the Incredible Bongo Band, with them covering Inagata Davida. Check that sample out when you get a moment. No problem with that, as he got Black Eyed Peas' Will I Am to add a different twist to it. Well, this dope song is aptly titled, and the line above, in addition to my opening words, sums it up well. 5 out of 5. And speaking of 5 out of 5, that brings me to the moment that I've been waiting for. I mean, Black Republican, I know you can feel the magic, baby. Yes, and let me tell you something, y'all. From the first time I heard this song all the way up until present day, whenever I hear this song, I nod my head, and I always had this big smile from ear to ear, because I mean, words cannot express how happy I was when we got this collaboration finally after all that time. And I'm gonna read this here. I kid you not. I should have added our lawyer reader, but okay. I was legitimately surprised when I saw Jay-Z on this song, and I honestly didn't know until I opened the album insert. Remember when I said I asked, when will we get the collabo? That question was finally answered with this. In that regard, one of my hip hop dreams was fulfilled. This is the collabo that I've waited years for, and it was not a disappointment. To this very day, like I said, when I play this song, I smile from beginning to end with my head bobbing. I love it. It's an epic, a great song, and for their first collaboration, great stuff. Speaking of great stuff, that takes us to Not Going Back, another 5 out of 5 one. I really like this one, saying this is aptly titled Isn't Enough. Nas Alba says he's not going back to the way he used to be, all about looking ahead to the future and focusing on the now. I even liked how he denounced bling and the way he flaunted his materialistic possessions at the height of his career. Now, how many artists in hip hop have made similar statements since then? And Khalees was on this one too. All right, so the highlights continue. Still Dreaming. This Kanye West and Chrisette Michele assisted song is very good. In a pursuit of success, some are still dreaming, keeping the dream alive, whatever way they can. Good stuff, especially the chemistry between Nas and Kanye. And I'm gonna have something to say about them collectively later. Hold Down the Block. Previously, Nas made a statement saying he was not going back. That same mentality blends well into this song. You can count on someone like Nas to hold things down through thick and thin. Then there's Let There Be Light. Nas is the ghetto American idol. No matter what you do, you're never getting my title. That's true. Listening to this again, I got the vibe that Nas was given 2 points of view. Number one, shining a verbal light on his issues in his own poetic way, and two, still holding the title of God MC, hence the title of the song. Then the highlights continue with Play On Player, which was the first ever collaboration with Nas and Snoop Dogg. And I kept thinking about how awesome a collab with them would have been in 1994 over a Dr. Dre track. Yeah, imagine that. Not Nas just dropping Illmatic and then Snoop just dropping Doggy Style. Yeah, that would have been awesome. Speaking of awesome, that brings us to Can't Forget About You. This Will I Am produced banger, which finds Nas so full of nostalgia and holding on to the memories of the years gone by is tremendous. Miss Chrisette Michelle did a nice job on the hook as well. The next up is Hustlers. Not only is this Nas's first collaboration with the Game, but this was his first time working with Dr. Dre since 1997. Much like the song with Snoop, this is good as well. Say what you want about West Coast hip hop at the time, but Nas managed to get Snoop and Game on the same album at a time when they were very inspired. Marsha Ambrosius did a good job on the hook too. Nas said in this song, Nas said he liked watching fly bitches with gray eyes wrestle in a tub of KY to get my day by. Smooth right there. So then we bring it to the end. Where Y'all At, which was a Best Buy exclusive bonus track. And I did have that, but you see, weirdly enough, it wasn't on the CD. See, you had to put this in your computer and you had to, I think either the song automatically came up or you had to download it. So you had to put it in your computer to get the bonus track instead of them putting it on the CD. But I digress. So, like I said, for those who bought the album on the day of the release, like I did, we were treated with this gem. Nas goes in on this one. Why this was a bonus track when it easily could have been in the place of Who Killed It is beyond me. And speaking of which, why oh why did we have to have a low point on this album? And that low point is Who Killed It. And again, pardon that typo. Good God, y'all. Who Killed It? Apparently, Nas didn't learn anything from digitally altering his voice on the last album. Well, I get the idea of this song. It really could have been left on the cutting room floor. Nothing more to say about that. Hands down, this was the best album of 2006. And if you disagree, I challenge you to tell me a better album. Proclaiming that hip hop is dead was controversial at the time. Nas set out to make a statement, all the while saying it lives through him. Whether it was for additional publicity or not, it's still a matter of debate, but it got people talking. The album was nominated. Hold on. The album was nominated for a Grammy Award for Best Album in 2007, but it didn't win, unfortunately, losing out to Kanye's Graduation. With it inspired Nas, dope production, and guest appearances, this album was a true winner. Great job, 5 stars. It debuted at number 1 on the Billboard 200 chart, moving 355,880 units in its first week. His fourth number 1 album, selling over 764,000 units to date. Yeah, impressive. All right. Next up, we have the Untitled album, which was released on, well, we'll get to the release date later, but let me read this right quick. After 2006's Hip Hop is Dead, anticipation for Nas's next album was in full swing, especially for yours truly. Before we get to the album, I got to go into a little bit of history leading into it. Nas got the people talking once again in terms of the album title, and again, whether it was positive or negative depends on your perspective. Originally, he wanted to name the album Nigger. Let that sink in for a moment. Now, honestly, I wasn't offended, but even with my loyal, long-time support for Nas, the first thought that came to my mind was there's no way any major retailers would place this on their shelves. And not surprisingly, that's what happened. Major retailers like Walmart and Target refused to carry the album. Considering the pressure and how tight it got, Nas just simply named it Untitled. Reaction was split to say the very least. Some sided with Nas, citing freedom of speech. Others sharply criticized him, claiming an attempt to boost sales and publicity. Did all this work like it did in '06? We shall see. And then, of course, a little story. I bought this album on the day of its release, July 15, 2008, and my son Jaheem, who was pushing 2 at the time, shout out to my son, he was with me after I made the purchase from my local Best Buy, along with his greatest hits compilation. We were riding that entire day with this in the CD player, taking care of business. I'll save my immediate thoughts for the conclusion of this album. Just 1 second, guys. All right. Right. So, all right, let's see. So, featured guests, we have Yvonne Brown from the Stylistics, The Last Poets, The Game, Chris Brown, Carrie Hilson, Busta Rhymes, and Michael. And behind the boards, we got Game, Cool and Dre, Jay Miles, Dustin Moore, Salon Remy, Jay Electronica. Interesting names there, along with Polo the Don, Stickman, Mark Batson, the underrated DJ Toomp, and DJ Green Lantern. All right, so we get to the highlights here. You can't stop us now. No matter how hard you try, you can't stop us now. Without trying to sound too biased here, Nas makes a very good point in that the African American race can't be stopped and our movement continues. I would have liked this one to have been a little longer, but as it stands, it's a very good song. 4 out of 5. Then we got Breathe. We soldiers, we just getting older. In time, we still in our prime. I can't afford a new arrest on my folder. Yes, indeed. And then Stress ain't good, man. You gotta breathe, you know. And a lot of people could learn a lot from that last line. Let me tell you. All right. And Breathe, this is my favorite song on the album, another fast-paced one. And like I said, the second line above sums this up perfectly. 5 out of 5. Then we go to Hero. Can't leave it. The game needs them, plus the people need someone to believe in. That's right. Even with a subject like this, it's still a banger. In '08 and now, Nas can be considered one of the few heroes in hip hop. I also like Carrie Hilson, and she was a very good choice for the hook. In addition, in mid-late 2008, I decided to watch the BET Awards solely for Nas's performance. Even at that time, I refused to watch any award show, much like I do now, which is another story. In my opinion, he put his heart and soul into that performance. However, either the crowd was listening to every word closely or they clearly weren't interested. And considering the direction hip hop was headed in, I feel it was the latter. Sadly, either way, excellent song, 5 out of 5. And the excellent song, they continue with Sly Fox. I really like this one. It's Sly Fox, Sly Cox. We locked in the idiot box, the video slots. Broadcasting Waco, the video plots, they own YouTube, MySpace. When is ignorant shit gonna stop? Oh man. So yeah, so now, yeah, YouTube was a thing in '08. MySpace was a thing. So look where we at now. You know, not only is YouTube still here, but we got YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat. I mean, you name it. So Nas was on to something here. Said the fear factor got you all riled up. Oh, rally, oh, really, no rally needed. I'll tie you up. They say I'm all about murder, murder, and kill, kill. But what about Grindhouse and Kill Bill? What about Cheney and Halliburton? The backdoor deals on oil fields. How is Nas the most violent person? I use Viacom as my firearm and let the living split you. Who do you rely upon? The shoot shells at Leviathan. I'm dealing with the higher form. Fuck if you care how I write a poem. Man, watch what you're watching indeed. If you're aware of the Fox News channel, one of their promotional lines was fair and balanced, and this is what's anything but. Nas calls out the network as well as others for the propaganda that graced our TVs at the time and the manipulation of the information that came with it, brilliantly told. And although I'm aware of the Waco siege and the real existence of Halliburton, I'll keep my political views out of this project. 5 out of 5. And the 5 out of 5 highlights continue. After that one, we got NIGGER, the slave and the master. On the road to the riches and diamond rings in the land of blind, the man with one eye is the king. And I didn't mean to be brief with my analysis of this particular song, but Nas' words were so powerful here, and it must be heard to be appreciated. Untitled, brilliant. Nas is not coming from the nigger point of view, but damned if he doesn't show that we know a mind is a terrible thing to waste, and people of color are more intelligent than we're given credit for. Amen. Amen in my own words. Ain't that something? Fried chicken, Mrs. Fried Chicken, you gonna be a nigga deaf. This Busta Rhymes assisted concept song is excellent, talking about the pros and cons of fried chicken. Nas and Busta bring both humor and a serious vibe to a highly creative song, 5 out of 5. Then we go to another conceptual song, Project Roach. If roaches could hear, they would love this brief song. Another creative one. Nas comes from the perspective of a roach. Imagine that. And much like the previous song, it must be heard to be appreciated. Then y'all, my niggas, this is another one of my favorite songs on here. So what if my pants sag with my head turned back? The same swag got our merchandise flying off the racks. Amen. This is one of many lines that tell the story of this excellent song. We may be looked down upon in the eyes of some, but just remember, it's the strong presence of hip hop that has spoken volumes to many all over the world. 5 out of 5. And then we close things by highlighting Black President, 4 out of 5. I understand the use of Pox, though it seems heaven sent, we ain't ready to have a Black president line. But at the same time, Nas makes the case that no matter what was said about it up to that point, we as Black people were ready for a Black president. And on November 4th, 2008, history was made when Barack Obama won the presidency. Amen. And yes, I voted for him. In the end, after I played, and this is true, after I played this album the first time, my exact words were Nas is a genius. I said it twice that day. As usual, he delivered another excellent album, the best album of 2008, and it deserved to win the Grammy Award that year for Best Rap Album, but it unfortunately lost to Lil Wayne's overrated The Carter 3. I also initially gave this album 5 stars, a rating that has held up since its release date until now. In a rare occurrence, I'm changing the rating of a Nas album, in this case from a 5 to a respectable 4.5 stars overall. In an interview a few years back, Nas did say that he felt the album could have been better. I respect that, but he had nothing to be ashamed of. At the end of the day, my true fans know the real title of this album, he said. True indeed, 4.5 stars. This was his 5th number 1 album to hit the Billboard 200 chart, certified gold. All right. So we continue on with this one. Life is good. Life is good. So, all right. So we got this one here. Release date July 13th, 2012. Now, I did say something here. While it was a very good album, I decided not to review his Distant Relatives album with Damian Marley, as I wanted to focus solely on his solo material. Now, that album with Damian Marley, the only time I've listened to that to this day was the day that I bought it. I haven't, no disrespect to it. I just never had the desire to revisit it. That may change at a certain point, but I only played that once, and that's when I bought it on its release date. So before I get to this album, I do have a small story. So now this one, I was waiting for this to become a pre-order, and I pre-ordered on Best Buy. The day that it showed up available for pre-order, that's when I put the pre-order in. So when I got the notification that it was shipped, I was like, man, I can't wait for this one. Now, I was checking it all that day, and when it arrived, it wasn't in my mailbox. So, I'm wondering, I'm almost panicking. I'm like, okay, where my CD at? Where my CD at? So a little girl from next door, she came to the door with the package, and basically the mailman put the damn package in the wrong mailbox. And I think the little girl, I was like, I was happy and I was relieved, because had that package would have been lost, I would have been very upset. So thankfully she brought it to me, and that was the little story there, because that could have went either way, And then how you gonna put it in the wrong mailbox? But anyway, so that was the story for that one. So With this being said, so then we move to Life is Good. The featured guests here, Lawrence Professor, Rick Ross, Mary J. Blige, Anthony Hamilton, Miguel, Swiss Beats, Victoria Monet, Amy Winehouse, and Cocaine 80s. Then we have a respectable list behind the boards: Nas, Justice League, No ID, Salam Remy, Ronnie Jerkins, Swiss Beats, Buck Wild, Heavy D, rest in peace, The Interns, Boy Wonder. So some nice little list there. Now, I'm not going to list Accidental Murderers as a highlight, but let me just talk about Rick Ross. Now, you know, as most people who know me know that, initially I wasn't a fan of Rick Ross, but after a while he grew on me, and I'll be talking about him, in future videos more than likely. But I will say that Rick Ross and Nas have some damn good chemistry with each other, as obvious by songs like One of Us, Triple Beam Dreams, Usual Suspects. I mean, they got some great chemistry. But then again, most of the artists that Rick Ross collaborate with that I like, he has damn good chemistry with them. And at one time, I remember saying his charisma with Nas was downright scary. And that was at a point when I wasn't a fan of Rick Ross music like that. But after he grew on me, I was like, damn, man, you know. And of course, you add in the top nine production, it's great. So, so that was that. Um, so we get into the highlights from Life is Good. So we got no introduction. This is how it sounds when you're too real. They think it's just music still. Well, I'm a graphic classic song composer, music notes on sheets. I wrote this piece. Yep. This appropriately titled opener is excellent, the perfect way to begin the album. Over the course of 3 verses, Nas is already telling you what to expect on this album, even if he doesn't say it outright. 4 out of 5. And y'all, I apologize for my editing. Next time I'm gonna get it right. But I know y'all gonna pretty much excuse it, but I like my editing to be on point. So if I would basically score myself down a little bit with the editing here, but we'll continue. All right. So then we got the next highlight, which is 5 out of 5. This one, Locomotive. Um, for my trapped in the 90s niggas. I'm one of them. Nas lyrically just keep going and going. Hence the title of the song. Nas Pro provides a dope track with a true throwback vibe to the 90s vibe. True throwback to the 90s vibe. Tight all around. To keep winning is my way like Francis. As long as I'm breathing, I take chances. So much to write and say, yo, I don't know where to start, so I begin with the basics and flow from the heart. I shouldn't even be smiling. I should be angry and depressed. I've been rich longer than I've been broke, I confess. I started out broke, got rich, lost paper, then made it back like Trump being up and down, being up, down, up, play with cash. Okay. Next highlight, A Queen Story. Although Nas has told this story many times over the years, it succeeds due to his commanding yet refined presence on the mic, a fresh yet nostalgic perspective, a borderline epic track. That's 5 out of 5. And the 5 out of 5 highlights continue with the next one, Daughters. For my brothers with daughters, I call this, not saying that our sons are less important. I love this song. The way mothers feel for their sons, how fathers feel for their daughters. When he date, he straight chip off his own papa. When she date, we behind the door with the sawed off because we think no one is good enough for our daughters. And that is true. I have a son who was 7 years old at the time of that initial post, but I understand Nas's point of view on this song. Another excellent one. It's clear Nas loves his daughter, but he's struggling with the fact that she's getting older. She's an adult now. There's the growing influence of social media, which has its positives and negatives. Damn right. Plus, he's understandably overprotective regarding the type of boy she decides to bring home. This song is going to remain relevant for years to come. Yes. The world's an addiction. It's better to dead a beef than let it breathe. Then we don't succeed. We all need faith because the world keeps changing. Yes, indeed. In every aspect of our lives, there's some form of addiction which can be good and or bad. A song like this will go over the heads of the average person, but if you take your time with it, you'll hear Nas's true meaning. 4 out of 5. And this one had Anthony Hamilton on the hook. And next up, speaking of off the hook, we go to the Don. It's the return of the Prince, the boss. Those words from 2001 apply to this 2012 fast-paced banger. supplied by the late Heavy D. The reggae style hook worked too. 5 out of 5. Stay, this soulful selection, in my view, was a perfect contrasting lead into the next highlight. This one was 4 out of 5, but Cherry Wine featuring Amy Winehouse, man, 5 out of 5. The late Amy Winehouse blesses this hook, and she was the right choice for it. One time I played this, I almost cried because she was one of many talented artists who were taken so soon. The song itself is not the typical song for the ladies, in which Nas describes the type of woman that'll draw his interest at this point in his life. 5 out of 5 for this one. Then the next highlight, Bye Baby. Okay, I'm about to sing, y'all. Bless my heart. I guess you knew and blew a good thing. Baby, bye, baby. Bye, bye, baby. Great song. This song made me cry one time, too. I don't know why, but I guess it had that effect on me, but it's a good song, though. The dress that Nas is holding on the album cover is his ex-wife Khaleesi's wedding dress, and that is worth 1,000 words or more. This is the most personal song that Nas had done in a long time, talking about the trials and tribulations in he and Khaleesi's failed marriage. Incorporating Guy's goodbye love for the hook worked well. 5 out of 5. Then we got Nasty. I'm skinny, but I'm too big for a Bentley. Tell these clowns make room for the king, nigga. Okay. Yeah, of course. This was the first of 4 bonus tracks on the deluxe edition, which I have, as well as the first single released to hype the album. Over a dope track provided by Salam Remy, we get vintage Nas on this one. 5 out of 5. And the other 3 bonus tracks, they were good, but Nasty was the best one. All right. So for starters, I'm honestly torn on the rating for this album. Since its release, I've always given it a strong 4.5 star rating. Part of me wants to go the full Monty, but the question I ask myself is, do I need to give it more time and perspective, considering it came out almost 2 years ago as of this initial post? So I initially did this project, 2014? Overall, this was yet another excellent album in Nas' discography, the best album of 2012. It was also more personal than any of his previous albums, plus the production stood out almost as much as his lyrics did. Life is Good was certainly a fitting title as usual, a job well done. 4.5 stars. It debuted at #1 on the Billboard 200 chart, moving 149,000 units in its first week, selling 354,000 units as of February 2013. Yep. And I think I'm going to keep it at 4.5 stars for right now. All right. So now, like I said, at this point, Nas had Life is Good was the only album he had released at this point when I initially did this project. Because, like I said, even though these thoughts were mostly in 2014, I think that's when I did. Yeah, I did do that because I think 2014 that coincided with the 20th anniversary of Illmatic. So yes, that's exactly when I did it. But rest assured, all those thoughts, they still remain the same today. They sure do. So now we're going to get into the part of the project talking about everything that he's done since Life is Good. Now, this Nasir album probably the most, I would say the most least recognized album in his discography. This came out in June, on June 15th, 2008. The only song that I recall being real notable here is Cop Shot the Kid with Kanye West. That joint is great. That's a great song. Now I think a Nas album produced fully by Kanye West would have been a big deal years earlier, but in 2018, it was way too late. And even then, I don't think the majority of the album was produced by Kanye. It was executive produced, but and this came off more like an EP than anything else, But I would say between 2004 and 2010, or maybe even 2011, a Kanye produced Nas album would have been big during those times, especially during a time when Kanye was at his peak in terms of his creativity on the mic and behind the board. So this one came a little too late. I give it 3.5 stars, but outside of Cop Shot the Kid and maybe a couple other songs, I'm rarely going to revisit this one. So I'm not and that means pulling the CD out. So if I do listen to anything, it'll be on my Spotify playlist, which I do have a lot of playlists, even though I still own my CDs and I listen to my CDs. Yeah, I got my Spotify premium subscription, and one of my best playlists is my Nas playlist. Everything is on it. Everything. So we can move on from the Nasir album. Next up, we got the Lost Tapes 2. Now, like I mentioned earlier, this one came out on July 19th, 2019. Now, I didn't buy this out the store. I had to pre-order this from Amazon. And of course, when I got it, I was real happy with it. Um, Now, according to Wikipedia, this has recordings that dates all the way back, like things that didn't make albums as far back as hip hop is dead. And I don't necessarily agree with that because I don't think anything from this album, I don't, it comes off more or less like it was and maybe I got to look at the insert too. This more or less came off like an actual album that he decided to name the Lost Tapes to, because none of these songs on this album, needed to be cut from anything. I mean, it was mostly good. I give it 4.5 stars, but the two songs that went on, the three songs that are highlights here for me, even though the whole thing is pretty good. No Bad Energy, the opener, um, Queensbridge Politics, and Vernon Family. Those are my joints right there, especially No Bad Energy. You know, that's a good one. But yeah, like I said, the long awaited Lost Tapes 2, it finally saw the light of day. And again, I'm convinced that this was a studio album that he just happened to name the Lost Tapes 2, because with the majority of the good stuff on this album, I would find it hard to believe that any of these songs were cut from or didn't make previous albums, specifically Life is Good, around that time, because I don't think anything on this album dates back to the Untitled album or Hip Hop is Dead or anything. No, I'm just not seeing that. So then we get to, oh boy, so here we go. This 6 album run, Nas' second run, starting with the first installment of King's Disease, which came out August 21st, 2020. I think I think this one, as well as the other albums, with the exception of one, everything I had to pre-order from Nas's own website. Now the one thing that I don't like is that when you pre-order it, it takes months for them joints to arrive. You could pre-order it in what, June, and it won't ship out until like February or March of the next year. I'm like, damn, you my boy, but they got to get better with the mailing. But nevertheless, so and check this out. Even with me pre-ordering the CDs from Nas website directly, I also order the iTunes versions as well. So basically, you know, even though if I'm importing the CD, it's going to give me the same thing. I just got to have it. And usually when it comes to Nas, I'm on top of it. Anytime he drops some, I'm on it. So that's been the case with his releases now. With one exception, but we'll get to that. But King's Disease, great album. I still give it 4 stars. And then finally, after years of being denied a Grammy, he finally wins one for Best Rap Album at the 63rd Annual Grammy Awards. And it was sad. I mean, it was bittersweet. He was finally getting a Grammy, but this came at a time when we were still in the midst of a pandemic. So most people probably didn't see it, which is sad, but he nevertheless he got it, and I was happy for him. He long should have got a Grammy way back when, but we'll take it. So like I said, 4-star album, excellent. Hooking up with Hit Boy has turned out to work wonders for him. He's on such a creative role, and Hit Boy, whereas Jay-Z lit an overall fire under him, at least from a lyrical standpoint, Hit Boy has lit a fire up under him in terms of the production. They're like a match made in heaven. And one criticism that people had about Nas back then was his selection of beats, especially compared to Jay-Z. Well, that ain't the case now, because Hit Boy has laced him with some fire production. I mean, great stuff. And that's the case with this album and the next ones that I'm going to talk about. So the highlights here, we got 10 points, Blue Benz, To the Wars One, The Cure, highlights right there. But I think the two most notable highlights here is Ultra Black, unapologetically black, the opposite of Doja Cat. Yeah, that's my joint right there. Black is beautiful, no question. And then we got Full Circle, which is my pick for the album's best song. But then a case can be made for Ultra Black, but I think the consensus would be that Full Circle is the best song on the album. It reunites the firm for the first time in almost 20 some years, but without Nature. You had AZ and Core Mega, who just like Nas, they got better with age, And speaking of Core Mega, The Realness Part 2, great album, love the album. And then AZ's been on it too. He dropped Door Die 2, that sequel. Okay, not better than the original, but an excellent album. Then he also dropped Truth Be Told, produced by Buck Wild. Great stuff, But like I said, them three, Nas, AZ, and Core Mega got better with age. Foxy Brown, she sounded a little different, but I don't think she's done much since then. But it was good for her to get on the track with them because that was the original lineup. Now Nature would have been good on here too. So I need to figure out where he's been and what he's doing and why he wasn't on here. Maybe he wasn't invited. Who knows? But it's all good. Now, lastly, I didn't mention Spicy as a highlight, but I like that song. The beat thumps and then the hook. I love it. Kilo K, everybody pricey, cost money, beat the charge money, fast money, push a stop money, large money, Escobar money. And it's cool that, years after being called Nas Escobar, people still call him Nas Escobar, Nas Esco. Some call him Nasty Nas. Some may still call him Nostradamus. I just call him Nas or Nasir. But it's still cool that after all this time calling him Nas Esco or Nas Escobar, it still sounds good, So yeah, so again, King's Disease, 4 stars. Thus far, his only Grammy Award for Best Rap Album. Great start. The next up, we go to King's Disease 2, released on August 2nd, 2021. Now, interesting story about this one. Now, again, like I said, I had to pre-order this from Nas's website directly, but I was at work one day and one of my co-workers out of the blue told me, Nas got a new album out, right? And I was like, huh? Like, and now this was unheard of because, usually I'm on top of that, but I had no idea about this album. So, of course, when I listened to it, I was surprised like I don't know what, and I was happy. But my coach, she was like, Nas got a new album. Seriously? So, but man, needless to say, another Hit Boy produced album from top to bottom, 4.5 stars. You got highlights like Brunch on Sundays, My Bible, Store Run, Composure, The Pressure. Nas is good, but the key highlights here are Rare. I'm in rare form. I love this joint. Amp, if you're listening, he loved that song. And I remember one time when I seen him a few years ago, he was talking to me about how dope that song is, because it is dope. I'm in rare form, dope stuff. And then you got moments you can't relive, like your first time bugging from something that Nas said. And going back full circle to Illmatic, what's the first time I bugged out to something that Nas said? I sipped the Don P, watch it Gandhi till I'm charged it, right? And in my book of rhymes, all the words past the margin. That's the first time I remember bugging out from something that Nas said, courtesy of The World Is Yours. And the next two highlights, you got Count Me In, most non-sucker shit you could ever experience. Count Me In, love that joint. And then Nobody featuring Lauryn Hill. Lauryn Hill almost steals the show from Nas on that one. And it seems like she still got something to say about people who was complaining about her being late years ago. People still in their feelings about that, but she addressed it. And like I said, almost stole the show. But again, like I said, quality album from top to bottom, produced entirely by Hit Boy. This one was also nominated for a Grammy for Best Rap Album, and it should have won. But I think it lost to a Drake album, if I'm not sure. I think it did, which, come on now. And I'm not a Drake fan before any of you ask. I'm not a fan of that guy. So you won't hear me talk about him on my channel unless it's something involving, something that he's a part of. But, I don't have anything to say about that guy. Moving on. Next up, now this one, Magic. Okay, released on December 24th, 2021. Now, I think this was let me see. I can't recall when I first heard this. I think I was online doing something, and then I just happened to run into an article that said that this was coming out. So I did pre-order. Now, this is one that I pre-ordered from Amazon as well. I'm not sure why it wasn't on Nas's website, but I did pre-order this one, and it came like a few months later. But the only reason why he gave us this album is simple. KD3 on the way. This just to feed the buzz, plain and simple. And the highlights on here: Meet Joe Black, Dedicated, Woo for the Children, 40-16 building, and then Wave Guys. I like this one. He said, "Me and Hit Boy, they say we like the new Gangstar." Hey, I can't argue with that, you know. But the Magic album, it did its job in feeding the buzz because KD3 was on the way, and I give it 4 stars. Pretty good album. So that's 3 out of 3 right there. And then next up, we got King's Disease 3, released on November 11th, 2022. I remember getting notification on Spotify that it had just dropped. And of course, I was at work listening to it, and I was blown away, man. I love this joint. It's so many highlights on here. And again, I give it 4.5 stars. But starting with the notable ones, you got Ghetto Reporter. He said, "Niggas know I don't drop this often, so cherish it." That's what I'm doing. you know, um, Thun, I like that one. Queens in the House. That's my joint right there. Then Once a Man, Twice a Child. Now, this is a dope song. He says, one of the lines that sticks out, he says, "My old girl dope, but I love my new girl." And I personally can testify to that. And he also says, "When I get old, I hope I can be this fly." Interesting right there. And then Legit. I love this one because, as many of you listening, I know everybody who's listening to this seen the Five Heartbeats, kind of a hood classic. Now, remember when the group, they did the little concert, and the fat guy on the piano was he was messing up the sound or whatever, and they was just singing and doing their steps and all that, and the crowd was just booing them, including one lady who was like, "Please go home." Well, she would eat those words later. So then JT was telling Duck, he was like, "Duck, do the steps." And Duck was like, "It's the music, I'm not feeling it." So he stepped away from the line. He just straight up booted that guy out the chair and just, start playing the piano with such soul that here comes what's his name? Eddie Kane Jr. He grabs the mic. I'm not gonna do it. Y'all know what scene I'm talking about. He does it, and everybody tune just changed. When he dropped that line, and everybody in the background, Dresser and Quabo and the crew, it was like, yeah, yeah. Now that part, is there a heart in the house tonight? Man, Hit Boy came through with such an ill use of that sample, man. I mean, when I first heard it, I was like, man. But that song, and then of course, taking it back to the Five Heartbeat scene. I mean, great stuff. Is there a heart? Is there a heart in the house tonight? Stand up. I mean, everybody remembers that, you know. Oh, and the lady who told them please go home, she was in her chair just having some sort of connection. And of course, when Eddie goes over to kiss her, she faints. Whatever, sister. But anyway, like I said, that's a highlight. And then the other highlights on here, you got WTF, SMH, To My Last Breath, which is a bonus track. And then you got other dope stuff like 30, going on 30 Summers, Michael and Quincy, First Time, and Recession Proof. Again, excellent album. And I think this was also nominated for a Grammy for Best Rap Album, but Killer Mike won that. I know you all heard about that. Now, which one do I think is the best of the King's Disease series? Part of me wants to say part 2, but then I'm leaning towards part 3. So even though I did listen to them today, I have to go back and listen to them back to back to see which one is the best. But like I said, 4.5 star album for that. Then we go to the next one, Magic 2. I was surprised when this one dropped. This one came out last year, July 21st, 2023. And again, um, produced heavily by Hit Boy. I pre-ordered this from Nas website, just like the next one and the other ones that I talked about. Some of the highlights on here, Black Magic, um, Slow It Down, What This All Really Means, Urban Magic Johnson, Abracadabra. Abracadabra, you got to hear that one. Must be heard to be appreciated. And Pistols on Your album cover, that's pretty good too. But yeah, you know, dope album. Dope album. Surprised a lot of people. And again, 4.5 stars for this one. And speaking of surprises, about 2 months later on his 50th birthday, he drops Magic 3. you know, and the highlights on here, he what Speechless Part 2, TSK, Sitting With My Thoughts, based on true events, parts 1 and 2, No Tears, Fever, Japanese Soul Bar, and I think probably the best song on here, 1-800 Nas and Hit. Love that joint. Love that joint. And then another 4.5 star album. So of the Magic series, I'll probably give the nod to part 3. But then again, knowing me, I'm gonna take some time to go back and listen to both of them back to back to see which one is best. And imagine that, you got out. I mean, you got this 6 album run, a 6 out of 6. The average rating is like 4.5 stars. The production is nice. Nas is just in a lyrical. I mean, creatively, he's on point. Lyrically, he's sharp. He's gotten better with age. I mean, what more can I say, man? And every time he drops something, I'm just looking for the next one. So, will we get another joint with Hit Boy? I hope so. And speaking of which, that brings us to the end of the Nas Project, the ultimate Nas Project. Man, let me tell you, right now it's about 3 hours and some change in. I had a great time doing this. It came out well. This was all done in one take. And like I said here, it goes without saying that I'm anticipating whatever he does next, which I'm going to talk about in a bit. And you can count on a review and a pre-order. I put this discography up against any artist in terms of quality and consistency. And as a dedication to my number one favorite MC of all time, it was worth all the time and effort putting this together. Nas, I hope he sees this. I hope somebody tells him about this, because this is by far the most comprehensive review of his discography you're ever going to find. And for an artist the caliber of Nas, I couldn't have done it on a better artist. I mean, like I said, he's my favorite artist of all time. He's still getting better. I mean, guest appearances and everything like that. I mean, what more can I say that I haven't already said during this project? The man is awesome. And as far as I'm concerned, even without this 6 album run that he's been on, he would still be my pick for the greatest MC of all time. And the guy still ain't done. Currently, I checked out Define My Name. Yes, I have. Produced by DJ Premier. That song is dope. And it confirms that album with Premier, that long-awaited album with Premier, is coming. Hopefully, it's coming at some point this year. So I'm going to be talking about it. And this is going to be a long time coming. DJ, all the good stuff is going to come when you got DJ Premier behind the boards, damn straight. Now, my question is, are we going to get a 3-album run with DJ Premier? Are we going to get a 6-album run with DJ Premier? Are we going to get another one with Hit Boy? Are we going to have a project with production from that? Look, imagine this. Imagine a double album from Nas, right? This one is produced entirely by Hit Boy, and this 2 is produced entirely by DJ Premier. Can you imagine such a thing? So, man, we got a lot to look forward to. And speaking of which, he's about to go on tour in a couple of weeks. He's going on tour in a couple of places in the US, but after that, he's going to spend a good portion of this year touring overseas. I mean, he got a big overseas tour coming up. And I'm gonna tell you something, he's gonna get crazy paid. Oh my God, man. Getting that paper or getting that bag, as they say, is what it is when it comes to touring in the US. I mean, he gonna rake in some big bucks. He gonna rake in that paper when he go overseas. And he's gonna be over there for a lot of dates. I mean, a lot of dates. Man, nothing but goodness coming from this guy, you know. So, so with all that being said, if you made it with me thus far in this project, I want to thank you for taking the time to listen. I had an awesome time doing this together, and I was racking my brain regarding how I was going to put this together and how I was going to present it to you all. I hope you like it. And at the end of the day, if this draws you to team discipline, I appreciate that. If you like what you heard, please like the video, comment on the video, subscribe to Team Discipline, my channel, share it, please. And again, I hope Nas sees this, not just for no clout, but this is coming from a longtime fan, you know. And also let me know what you think. Let me know what you think about his career in the 90s. Definitely let me know what you think about his career in the 2000s, as well as this quote unquote second run that he's on with Hit Boy. And now it looks like DJ Premier is going to be entered into the mix. What's your favorite album from him? What do you think his most underrated album is? What do you think his worst album is? Let me know all that. And speaking of which, let me say one more thing. Now, I may do this as a second post, but you'll notice that I didn't have a list of like my list of his albums, like from greatest to least. I think I'm going to do that in a second post, a second video at some point, because I'm going to need to like really take my time with that to see what his best work is and what his worst work is, even though he doesn't have anything I would consider worse. Now, of course, I know the first two at the top gonna be Illmatic and Stillmatic, respectively, and the two bottom gonna be Nasir, the Nasir album and the Nostradamus album. But man, it's gonna be some work trying to determine what's his best albums, in order in the middle. And we got a lot of stellar material to work with. So, with all that said, like I said, if you made it this far, like the video, comment, share, definitely subscribe to Team Discipline. Again, Nas, thank you for all that you've done since Live at the Barbecue. Thank you for all of the music that you've given us over the years. Thank you for the guest appearances. Thank you for keeping hip hop real, keeping hip hop alive. And for everything that you're going to give us from this point on is appreciated. And yes, it is cherished. Yes, thank you, thank you, thank you for this stellar body of work, my guy. Thank you. And with all that being said, you all, until the next video, take care. Thank you for listening. And as always, the power of the mind is valuable.